Good morning, everybody out there. Welcome to the Bottom Line Show. I am Darren. I'm with Lamar here. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, doing pretty good. How about yourself? How you
I'm all
How you
right.
doing?
I'm all right.
Yeah, you're speaking logo style today.
I know. Having some tech issues today, so sometimes I could either get my mouse working or my camera working, but I couldn't do both for some reason.
Hey, it
So
happens,
I'll
man.
figure it out for next time, but you won't be
Yeah,
able to see me.
yeah, it
Maybe that's a
happens.
good thing. I don't. Maybe that's a good thing. Who knows?
Yeah. So I mean, things happen, man. We gotta make it work, right?
Got to make it work.
Gotta make it work. So what we got going on in the news today?
Well, it's kind of an interesting week. And the hurricane dominated a lot of the news. A hurricane in Florida was a big news. Apparently, the last that I saw was 42 people were killed. That's a
Okay.
lot from the storm.
Yeah.
Um, more details are emerging. Power was out for millions of people. It spread all the way through Florida, and then went up the Atlantic coast, going west to east, and now it hit South Carolina.
Yeah.
So there can be a lot to talk about there.
Yeah.
Once again, for Florida, I kind of got onto this issue of the Dolphins quarterback, the
Yeah.
Miami Dolphins quarterback,
Yeah.
who was injured on week 2,
Yeah.
and then in week 3, 4 days later, because it was Thursday night football, was injured again. It was pretty bad. All the sports shows on Friday were talking about it. I hope he's okay, but it kind of brings into question NFL practices, the team's practices, and what they're doing. Um, I guess there's more news in the sports world with the Celtics situation. Um,
Yeah.
Russia is trying to annex territories. They had elections, probably a sham elections in the Eastern territories, trying to hang on to some land that they invaded before Ukraine comes in, trying to make it legitimate. Um, Liz Cheney had an interesting interview calling out Republicans. And
Hmm.
there's an interesting story out of California that you grabbed onto this morning about rap lyrics being used in court. So I look forward to
Hmm.
talking about that with you.
Yeah. So it's just a lot. It's a lot going on, man. It's always a evolving story here in the United States of just everything, every from sports to politics to social issues. There's always something here, and it's like this ever evolving story. But yeah, let's kick it off, man. What do you want to start off with the hurricane? Let's talk about that a little bit.
All right. So here's a few startling videos from that some um, of the storm in Florida.
Okay.
This is not anything anyone wanted to deal with. I mean, if you go back 72 hours before landfall, most of Southwest Florida was not even in the cone, and then you have a situation where you're staring down the barrel of a hurricane making landfall at 155 miles an hour. So the response here and just the way people have reacted has been very, very impressive, and we understand this is just the beginning.
You know, when you first experience all this, it really is sort of numbing. You're overwhelmed, you're still in a little bit of shock. It's not my first hurricane, but it's my first total loss. So I'm trying to be brave. I think I've lost everything I own. And I'm trying to be brave and know that my family and I are safe. And I'll worry about all that other stuff later.
Water came up to about here, and when it got to there, the way they were saying on the news, I thought it was going to eventually go over our heads. I called my daughters and said goodbye. Now, from now on, when they say water surge and all that, it's not that it's going to be close to the beach. It can be miles away, you know. So next time, we'll know to get the hell out.
I stayed here as long as I could until I got scared for my life and went across the street in a brick home, which the three little pigs, they built them out of block. It's supposed to stay. Mine's built out of sticks. It didn't last too long when the big bad wolf come along and puffed it away. But I literally watched my house disappear with everything in it. Right before my eyes.
Have you ever experienced a hurricane?
I was going to ask you the same question. Yes, I have. Actually, I got some of the effects of Hurricane Hugo back in like 1990, I think it was, or 89, 90, 91. Whenever Hurricane Hugo came through, I was living in Jacksonville, Florida. And it actually hit, I think,
Wow.
in the North Carolina, South Carolina area. But that was a pretty devastating hurricane. But I've never seen so much flooding and rain. And I was living down there by myself, so I was a little scared. And then about maybe, I think it was about within the last 10 years, we were in Myrtle Beach and there was a hurricane coming that way. I think it was like 2015, maybe 14, 15. A hurricane was coming and it ended up turning into a tropical storm, but it was pretty bad. The eye of the storm went right over Myrtle Beach where we were staying at. I mean,
Oh, wow.
you actually felt the eye where it got calm. It was like really bad rain and
Wow.
everything, and then you felt it when it got calm. It just like settled down, and then it started back up again after the eye moved over.
So you were caught in it.
Yeah, we were right on the beach. We were staying on the beach. I mean, it wasn't a lot of
Did,
devastation. It wasn't a
did
lot
they
of
do
like,
it? Oh, okay. So they didn't do a mandatory evacuation then.
oh no, it wasn't evacuation because it turned from a hurricane to a tropical storm by the time it came over. But you literally felt the eye of that storm though go over you.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah, it was me and my whole family. We were down there for Mother's Day actually, and we spent Mother's Day and that whole weekend at Myrtle Beach. It was like sometime in May. It was like I think it was 14 or 15. Can't remember.
Hmm.
But yeah, man. So I was in two hurricanes. So I experienced the effects of a dissipating hurricane and actually the effects of a hurricane from Hurricane Hugo.
Right.
What about
I
you?
The only time that I've had any kind of experience with a hurricane is once we were on our way to a place that our family used to stay at. This is years ago. This is like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
My wife and I were headed down to Virginia Beach,
Hmm.
where some of our family had a cottage, and we were going to stay for a few days with them. And a hurricane was coming. I forget the name of it.
Hmm.
Um, and they, uh, the next day we were in the car again, driving away from the coast. So it took us
Mm,
12 hours to get down there, and then 8 hours. It took us 8 hours. It took us double the time to get from the coast to oh god, Charlotte. That's where we
yeah.
were.
Okay.
Because of the traffic, because everybody because they ordered an evacuation, so it was just cars just everywhere.
Yeah.
That's my only experience with her. So I really haven't actually been on the ground for hurricanes. So
Well, I
lucky.
actually escaped Hurricane Sandy.
Hmm.
Um, we were in New York. Me and my wife, we were there just hanging out. Actually, I went there, took her there for her birthday. Um, and this was whenever Hurricane Sandy came through. We were still dating, and I took her there to see Chris Tucker in concert in Connecticut.
Okay.
And so we were staying in Connecticut, and then we traveled to New York. But we were like the day that Sandy hit, the governor gave a warning: if you don't get out now, you're stuck here.
Yep.
And we were in our hotel room, and we were debating, like, because we had another night to stay there, I think, or something. And we were like, man, we better go. So as we were going, you can see how they were preparing to lock off, board off, block off the bridges that's going across the city. And yeah, that was something. I think we got to Pennsylvania when we heard on the news that Hurricane Sandy had like finally hit and was like causing all kind of flooding and all kind of issues. But I had buddies there that were working for nonprofit organizations that was preparing for the
Okay.
homeless.
Okay.
And so they were, we couldn't even, it was like we're working right now, we're busy. So they're doing everything they can to prepare
Wow.
food and
Hmm.
prepare places for people to sleep and to be, it was a lot of hustle bustle preparing for the hurricane.
Well, we
And
want
think
to
think about
go
this
ahead.
also. Remember a couple of months back, I was talking about moving to Tampa, Florida. Remember?
Yes.
I would have been right in the middle of that.
Yeah, you were.
I would have been living south of Tampa. It came right through there.
Yep.
Man, God is good, man. Kept me from going.
Kept you from going. Yeah. So I don't know. Some of those pictures are pretty startling. I mean,
Yeah.
that image from above where you see the storm and you see the lightning flashing like
Mhm.
that. That's
Yeah.
pretty wild. And all those boats, the boats were just carried inland,
Right. I
just
saw
kind of
that.
dumped there on the side of the road, just anywhere. Um, and I heard that a lighthouse went down. It's
Oh, I
like
saw a couple
some
of
weird
piers that were in
stuff.
the water. There were piers in the water. I saw that. I've been looking for like testimony from user, like for people like on social media, get their video.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to see what it looks like from their perspective, their video.
Yeah. Some of those are usually
Yeah,
pretty interesting. Well, we want to make sure that everyone's safe, and it's going to South Carolina. Apparently, it's there
mhm.
now.
Yeah, it hit
Um,
yesterday.
yeah. So not only now there's two states that have been devastated. As far as like Governor DeSantis's response, I guess has been pretty good. I mean, he's done what he should do.
Yeah,
From all appearances, you know, and sometimes things are made political. It seems like everything's made political. So when something like this happens, it's good to see that leaders, no matter what party they're from,
yeah,
um, that they're able to do the responsible thing and do what's right and do what they're there to do, and not to make it partisan or to uh, let it denigrate into some sort of a political debate using
yeah.
a tragedy. We saw that with the pandemic was made
Right.
political. Um, so I'm glad to see that at least so far these things aren't made overly political. What
Well,
what what are your
the
thoughts
thing
about that?
well, that's what I was about to say. I think that sometimes the comments we make over the, especially over the, I would say going back the last, say 12 to 15 years, the the cruel comments that we hear in politics now, and then we've seen the cruel actions, partisan actions toward the other group or to other people, actually, just to innocent people that are just in the crossfires of political wars. that in a situation like this, DeSantis, who was against giving government money, he's
Yep.
anti-government.
Yep. Yep.
He said some cruel. He doesn't care if you suffer or not. He doesn't want the government to get involved, but yet he needs the government right now to help
Yep.
his state. And to think about it then again, if he doesn't come across properly, I don't think Biden would ever abandon the people of Florida. I don't think he'll do that.
No.
But the issue is that DeSantis has to come in a humble manner because he has
Yep.
to ask for these funds. He has to request them in order to get them. And in doing so, your heart has to be in a place. I mean, he can say it without being sincere, but however it turns out, whatever aid that is given, it's going to reflect on how he requests the funds. If he does it in a, the typical DeSantis way, he's going to hurt his people. They're going to see this, and then if he does it in a humble way, it can help him politically. All that narrows down to him running for president in 2024. They're going to remember this week. They're going to remember this week and the response of how he responded. I understand, like, for instance, Mar-a-Lago wasn't affected at all. We haven't heard too much of Trump about the hurricane.
Nope.
But that whole Republican political battle that's going on internally is just ridiculous. I mean, we're going to hear a little bit from Liz Cheney a little bit later talking about that. But if we never had this type of anger toward each other politically, this issue should never have been. It's just the conversation never should have came up about how Ron DeSantis responds to Biden about requesting funds.
Yeah.
It shouldn't even come down to that. That's how horrible we are right now in our country.
Well, people are going to remember this in his state if and when he goes up for re-election. I guess it's in 24 when he's up for re-election in Florida. Presumably, if he's not running for president, I guess. So people are going to remember this. Even if he does run for president, people are going to remember this, and it's going to be part of his record. So I think he's not stupid.
Yeah.
And but it is ironic that sometimes the so-called small governments, Republicans, when they need when something like this happens and they need the support and help from the government, the only entity that can really make a difference and to do things is the government in this case. So yes, we want to donate. Yes, there is groups that help people, but if you're talking about disaster management, that's one of the functions of government that I think all people can agree on. Hopefully, can agree on. That we need to have when we need to have it. So
I got two pictures for you. There's another one that I like too. There's two pictures I want to show you of what. Wow, this is a good one also, of how bad the water was in Florida. Here's one here.
That's man, look at it. I'm surprised it's not leaking through.
Can you imagine that?
My God.
That's one there. And this is another picture. Look at that.
Man, that car. Oh, God.
Look how high the water is. That's like, man, it's almost insane.
Joe says there's sharks in the water, in the flooding water.
Yeah, what do you do about that? No, there are though. Think about it.
Are there sharks that are like swimming around?
Where did they go?
I guess they would go with the storm. I guess.
What about the alligators?
There is alligators. I saw pictures of the alligators like floating on the water.
Yeah.
And
so you would think for instance, the sharks and the big fish, they know the storm is coming. They get out the way. You know what I'm saying? They kind of move away. But what about those that don't? But alligators sometimes they're in ponds and small lakes.
Yeah.
Like,
they're inland.
They're swept up.
Yeah.
And so it's like, man, you could, come out of your house or you're trying to get to safety and you're dealing with an alligator.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'd want to be waiting around in those waters.
That's
Uh,
scary, man. There's another. I can't get that video. Dang it. There's a video I'm trying to grab that showed this boat just floating, man. It was horrible. Oh, I'm grabbing the wrong video. I was it's a Twitter video. See if I can grab it. But yeah, man. But yeah, so tell me, if what would you do if you was in that situation? If you were that person that's hold on, that person that stayed, if you was that person that stayed and it was worse than you thought, like this situation.
okay,
Can you swim?
I can swim,
Can you
but
can you swim? Can you like really swim?
I used to be a good swimmer. But now with my age, I probably wouldn't be able to go very far. No. Um,
Okay, because
I mean,
this water
if I had to swim away from a shark, no, I'd be dead.
storm surge, the water comes in pretty fast. And how do you respond to that? It comes in pretty fast. So this video shows a little bit of the storm, and it's just incredible. Like it's incredible when I see Mother Nature like this. It's incredible because you can't get upset because it's just a natural disaster. It's just something that's human about it. I mean, that's something that's natural. But we as people, why do I mean the people like the one guy I saw in the video said, he lost all his possessions in his house. There's a couple factors there, and it's something that I thought about before. Thought about moving to Tampa. The possibility of a hurricane. What do you do? Where do you keep stuff? How do you? What happens if the hurricane does come and you lose everything? Are you prepared mentally and emotionally for that? And we thought about that because we were going to build a house like 2 miles from the ocean. We thought about it,
Oh wow,
and it's like
that's
we
pretty
wanted to be
close.
we wanted to be by the
Yeah.
beach so bad that I literally when people always you hear the comments, why do you want to move to Florida? Or why you know the hurricane is coming? Why do you live so close to the water? Why not live farther inland? I get it because I was going to do the same thing. I get that desire to be that close to the water because you love
I mean,
that nature. You love that view so much that you're willing to
yeah,
take that risk.
no matter what, people are always going to want to live next to the water. So storms,
But then there's
uh,
people who don't.
you
I
know,
don't know anyone in my family that want to live that close to the water. They want to
no one.
visit. No one in my family but me and my wife want to live like walking distance to the ocean. And
Okay.
they're like, well, I go there to visit, but that what about the
No,
hurricane?
I,
That's
I
the
mean,
first thing
I
people
can I
say.
can
What
see
about
that.
the
I
hurricane?
don't like to. I mean, I don't like to. Uh, I don't think I would be one of those people that would want to live there. I would be under the category of I'll visit, but to own
Yeah,
real estate and a house and to build a house that close to the water, I don't think so. In the Gulf Coast, anywhere in the Gulf Coast, Atlantic Coast.
right.
Um, I guess I mean, Joe said there's 104 years since Tampa took a hurricane hit. Think about that.
Yeah,
That's pretty incredible because Tampa's on the coast. It's on the coast
right.
of the Gulf of Mexico. You would
Yeah,
figure that in the last century that there would have been one, but apparently there hasn't been. So I mean, there's going to be
yeah,
a lot of people that are going to take that risk. Going to say, well, how often is it really?
yeah.
And will the fates, will Mother Nature strike us? It's a crapshoot. It's a
Well,
crapshoot.
that
Who
was
knows?
that was one of the reasons. That was part of my research and why I decided the Gulf Coast because um, I knew that history. I knew that there haven't been any hurricanes, and now, as a matter of fact, some of the areas of Tampa are like there's a low pressure. Is it a low pressure? I think that swirls around that kind of
Keeps the
pushes
storms
the
away. Pushes the
yeah
storms
pushes
out.
pushes the hurricanes in a different direction.
Oh,
And so that's
I
why
didn't
they
know that.
haven't. That's why they haven't had the hurricanes. They haven't had any issues with them. I mean, they'll come over Florida, over that Gulf Coast, and they kind of wither away. Because remember, a couple years ago, Tampa was a direct hit, and it kind of just disappeared, or it just kind of went away, or went around them. And that was one of the things that I researched before thinking about moving to Tampa.
Wow. Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I'm
I'm not
glad
sure
I
that a lot of
didn't.
people do that. I don't
I'm
think a
glad
lot of
I
people do
didn't
that.
go.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't go because I would have been unprepared for it now, in a sense that before I was by myself when I went through Hurricane Hugo a little bit. But I'm, being with the wife, family, it's like the whole strategy is a little different because all I had to do was worry about myself, you know. But this would be a little that would have been a little different, especially 30 years older, you know, that would have been a little different. But
Yeah. You get a lot more stuff in when you're versus 20 versus when you're 50. I got so
yeah,
much stuff, man. I get rid of stuff. I get rid of stuff. I'm
yeah,
like, how do I have all this much stuff? I
yeah.
got books and clothes. I'm like, I'm trying to get rid. I got a garage full of stuff.
I'm cleaning
It's
my
like,
garage right now, man. It's a mess. I'm cleaning stuff. Started yesterday. Here's his last video of that flood, right quick. And also, Craig mentioned that he saw somebody on the news who
catching
had
a shark.
caught catching a shark. Yeah,
Yeah, that's why.
I gotta find that video. But here's this flooding. Here's another video.
Wow.
That's rough, man. And
See,
you hear how loud the wind was? It sounded
that's
like a horn.
I know. I was like, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I mean, the most startling thing to me is the sound.
Yeah, it's
Sound's just incredible.
just imagine the wind blowing past buildings and structures. You know, if it's just like in your window, you could when you're outside, you hear the wind, but you really hear the blow of it when it's brushing against other things.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what's man, that's power right there.
Craig's
That
gonna
is,
try and find this shark video for us.
oh,
That
okay,
that is
cool.
power. Yeah, the power of nature is just like
Yeah,
you just like there's nothing you can do if you're like on that.
yeah,
It looked like a third floor, maybe fourth floor. You're
yeah,
just like, well, I'm gonna wait it out.
yeah. Just tighten your butt cheeks up and find a corner somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's rough. I'm looking to see if I can find those sharks also. But what's next, man, for us?
Okay. Well, enough of that. Um, this really bothered me this week. It bothered a lot of people looking at this. Um, you know, I'm a football fan. I've always liked football. Football was a part of me
Yeah,
growing up. Football kind of sometimes is like, man, uh, what are these guys doing to themselves? And
right.
what is the NFL? Are they really on the side of players and player safety? Especially in the last 10 years. What was that movie with Will Smith?
Concussion,
The head injury. What was that movie called? Came out
concussion.
about 8 years ago. It was just called Concussion.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I've never
So
seen that
that
yet.
doctor from Africa, you can imagine this, like all this football, number one sport in America, arguably.
Mhm.
Kids are playing football, pee-wee football, high school football, and nobody really researched this in the in-depth level as far as head injuries
Yeah,
until this guy who was not from the United States.
yeah,
And now there's institutes and hospitals that are studying concussion treatment,
right.
and there's concussion protocols. It's scary stuff. It's scary stuff. You're like, well, did you allow your son to play football? Did your son play football?
He played Pop Warner.
Okay.
Then well, it was like Muni League. He was like in middle school
Okay.
or sixth grade or something like that.
What
And
is
then
Muni? What does that stand for? I don't even know.
I forgot what is municipal something. It's in
Oh, okay.
Cleveland Muni
Okay.
League. It's like Pop Warner, and it's like between like elementary, like third to seventh grade, maybe a sixth grade. And he did that for a year, and he was like, "Nah, Dad, it's not for me." So he played basketball in high school. Then after that,
Yeah, I mean, so what, I wouldn't allow my kids if I had younger kids. boys to play football.
Yeah.
Even though I watch football, so it's that. So I guess uh, I guess I'm blasphemous if I watch football, right?
Right.
Then I support football, but I wouldn't
Right.
let my kids play. Anyways, so to and I'm gonna I practice saying his name, Tung Tungagalova. No, that's not right. Help me out.
Tunga Galua, right? A Tunga Galua.
Tungagalova.
I
You know,
think it
I
is.
should be able to pronounce his name better, but
I
he
struggle
was
too.
from Alabama.
Yeah.
Um, did he win the Heisman Trophy?
I
He
can't
was
remember.
he was a star. Was
Yeah.
drafted, and he's had a mixed career as a pro. Anyways, so this happened this past week. First of all, on week 2 of the NFL season, he was injured. They called it a back injury
Yeah.
when it was clearly not a back injury,
Yeah.
and which allowed him to play in the Thursday night game because NFL now has Thursday night games. 4 days later, he's playing, and unfortunately, he was injured in a kind of a graphic way. So
Yeah.
we're gonna view it because I think it's good to view it in context, and the shock value is startling. So,
Hmm.
and I think it's important.
Are in trouble 0-2. Tua Tagovailoa throwing off his back foot with the rush in his face there. Jalen Waddle makes the catch. Penalty flag comes in, and Tua Tagovailoa was roughed at the end of the release. The pass rusher came on top of him there, and Tagovailoa suffered some type of an injury on this play. We have Teddy Bridgewater in the game right now. Tagovailoa, oh boy, getting up. Oh my goodness, that's an awful, awful sight to see. They will take him to the sideline immediately. Oof. Okay, Tagovailoa, in fact, going up the tunnel into the locker room, and Teddy Bridgewater has come into the game for the time.
So that was week 2, and you see that
Yeah.
he's stumbling around. He went to the
Hmm.
locker room.
Yeah, that was bad. That was a bad hit. That was a bad hit to the head
That was a
there.
bad hit if you saw that. And
Mhm.
then this is Thursday, 2 days ago.
He admires most his ability to make adjustments at halftime.
To a rolling left with the grain, and down he goes. Josh Tupu. And well, and of course the last thing the Dolphins wanted to see. I mean, last week it looked for all the world. Everybody thought head injury, concussion, passed the protocol, came back second half, led him to a victory.
You think about the back, the ankle, but he gets thrown to the ground.
Again, wrenching that back, which was the issue last week.
Yep.
So they work on him.
That was the injury on Thursday. So,
Yeah.
Aggravate the head injuries. Of course, if you get a concussion, then your likelihood of getting another concussion is increased. And you would think that at the professional level, we'd be able to do a better job of protecting players.
Yeah.
And you saw his fingers kind of seize up like that, his hands seize
Yeah.
up like that. That's
Saw
because
that.
the electrical impulses in his brain are firing, and his muscles kind of seize up like that. So
Yeah.
that's weird and scary. I never seen that before. I
Yeah.
didn't even know that happened to people with the head injuries. So
Right.
um,
Yeah. And it was. I was looking at all the complaints. This is sort of changing the story a little bit.
Kyler Murray won the Heisman over
Oh,
to
okay.
in
Thanks,
2018.
Joe. Appreciate that. And all for the people out there, also be on the lookout for the A+ Sports Show coming up soon with hosted by Joe Elder.
Yeah,
And
Joe.
you're on the bottom line. So
I'm
stay
looking
tuned for
forward
that.
to that.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. But talking about Thursday night football, and you said you didn't see the game, right?
I didn't see the game. I just saw what happened afterwards. No.
Okay. Yeah. So what do you think about Amazon showing Thursday night football?
I think it's a good thing. I mean, that means that I can get it. So I was able to
Right.
watch
Right.
a little of the Browns. I've had things on Thursday nights, but I don't this next week. So I might watch Thursday football. I mean, Thursday football is good because it starts at 7. Monday night football
Yeah,
starts at 9 or something like that. And so like
something like that.
by
Yeah,
the time the game ends, Eastern time, it's like midnight sometimes.
yeah. So
What
there's a
is it?
lot of complaints about Thursday night football on Amazon. A lot of
Is
technical
there?
issues.
What is the
Oh
issue?
yeah, I mean it was like people are complaining that people complaining about they couldn't get the stream quality. It was buffering a lot.
Oh
There
well,
was like
that's
many complaints, but I didn't have any issues with it myself. But that's been a big thing that was going over on social media about the streaming of Amazon. They were saying Bezos need to stop worrying about rockets in space and fix his network, for playing football because
well
people love their football.
they do need to, but I think that having football on a streaming service is the way of the future. You're going to see more of that now that people are cutting the cord of their cable. I mean,
Yeah,
there for a while, the only reason why I would why I had cable is so that I can
yeah,
watch live sports,
yeah,
and so uh, I go over and watch it at my dad's, like the OSU game, Ohio State games.
yeah.
I go over to my parents' house and I watch it because we don't have cable. So if
Okay,
I want to watch a live game,
yeah,
um, I don't really have access to it. So I
yeah,
appreciated that Amazon's doing this.
yeah.
But I mean, more to the issue at hand. He did say that he passed the concussion protocol last week.
Right.
Craig says that the concussion protocols are a mess. He read an article about that.
Yeah.
It's relying too much on talking to the athlete to diagnose the concussion, which makes sense. Is the concussed guy going to give an accurate assessment of his injury? Probably not. Is an athlete going to be motivated by wanting to get back in and play? Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is my point, and Craig does a good job there.
Yeah.
Two is a guy that has had a mixed career so far in the NFL. He was having a good year too. So here's a guy that the former coaching staff didn't believe in him, and now he's getting a chance. And so if if it's Tom Brady, if it's
Hmm.
Aaron Rodgers, if it's Ben Roethlisberger who retired, but a
Yeah.
few years ago he was able to report himself, specifically.
Yeah.
I know there's been other cases where he can report himself into says, I'm not good to go.
Right.
So a young guy though that's trying to prove himself less likely to do that.
Right.
So that's an important point.
Got a question. No, the concussion conversation is excellent, but I just had a quick question, right quick. I was wondering. I'm glad to see some people viewing the show because a lightweight got banned or restricted on Facebook for posting a comment. Craig may know a little bit about it because I posted it on the Prim site. But I was just curious, just because I'm looking at our numbers, they're kind of low. I was wondering if Facebook was restricting the stream because I was sharing it from my because I shared it to my page and I shared it to Prim. I was wondering if Facebook was blocking that a little bit.
It could
I
be.
got some
It could
restrictions.
be.
I got some restrictions for
Yeah, I
posting.
saw that this week. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Sometimes Facebook is weird with that. We haven't posted anything objectionable yet,
No,
have we?
it
Not
was.
yet.
I think I understand. I think I
Not
understand
today.
why it was the image that could have been offensive, but
Yeah,
the
something about the
article,
KKK.
yeah, but the article was very like bringing awareness to a situation, and they said I violated, you know, the uh the code. I'm like, what? And like Craig is saying now, we're your post from the bottom line needs approving in Prim.
Right.
Haha, that's the first time I've seen that. Have you had issues in the past? Yeah, Craig. Right now, that's what I'm talking about. I'm disputing with Facebook right now. I'm in a a, a conflict with them, so I've been going back and forth on customer service messages with them. And so I put the option that Prim administrators had to approve my past posts. So they
Yeah.
kind of restricted me from doing live, uh, going live on certain
Oh,
things. And
okay.
so they are being a complete jerk because, in my opinion, they are not. They allow their algorithms to dictate what's good and what's
Yep.
bad, and
Yep.
not putting in context what the post is about.
No,
And they
they
said that
don't. They don't.
they said I've had too many complaints this year, and they give me an
You have?
example. Yeah. So to give you an example, the first time I was banned for 24 hours. Or was it 5 days? And then this time they got me for 30 days. So the problem is, like, the first post I posted was this house in Georgia. It was a plantation, and the house was falling apart. And the article was talking about how they need to basically um tear it down, what to do, what should we do with this land, with this old plantation that's falling down and have trees and branches growing all over it. What do you do? So I wrote in there, with all the harm and pain that property has endured on people, you might as well just burn it down. That's what I said. So they took burn it down as a threat, and
Wow.
they banned me. So they did not put it in context with the conversation, because I put on there the pain that has been endured at this location. You might as well just burn it down. And so I got banned. So this past week, it was an article about the different levels of the Ku Klux Klan, going all the way back from after the Civil War, how the Klan started to rise when African Americans were free. So that was like phase one. And then you went to a phase of the Ku Klux Klan right after Reconstruction, when they were trying to keep the black people from voting, to take away their voting rights. So the Klan resurged in because people were killed and all these things. So then you see a resurgence again. The third level was during, no, I'll take it back. The second level was also during that time after Reconstruction. The third level was during the Civil Rights Movement. You saw as before the Civil Rights Movement was signed, you saw a resurgence of the Klan again. So the fourth level is what we're currently enduring now, is what you see since during the Trump administration, and actually prior to during Obama's administration, you saw a resurgence of the Klan again. So right now, these different groups that you see out here are basically Klan going by different names. Oath Keepers for one, the 3%ers for one. So that's what the article is about. It was an awareness about who these groups are and who they resemble. They resemble the ideology of the Ku Klux Klan. But when I posted the article, it had a picture of a white guy with a bald head. You saw the back of his head, and it said Ku Klux Klan on the back of his head.
Okay.
Now, I'm thinking that they got it because of the image. My issue is you banded me out of context of what I was trying to say. So there's a responsibility in both ways. Yeah, me, I guess, because of the image, but also with Facebook. I know you can't monitor everybody, but you can have a way of certain content to have a person. You have people who always have controversial comment or content that needed to be banned, but that has not been me, But they say I've had too many this year, and everything I've done was bringing awareness. So if you think about it, if you think about things about awareness, especially from those that can be victims of a certain situation, you should bring awareness to those things. And so, to me, it was a major fail from Facebook, in my opinion.
They need to do a better job, as you said, of looking at comments in context,
Yeah.
and what the subject is,
Yeah.
and what you're replying to. And these things are all automated. They look for keywords, and they're looking for, which I understand.
Yeah.
But
It makes sense.
whatever it takes, hire more staff. Somebody to actually have a human being look at these things. And I've been banned, so to speak, from posting for a while.
Yeah.
You've been banned. Has anyone else out there been banned? Has anyone not been banned?
Yeah.
Like recently, especially in the last few years.
This year was my first year, man.
This year's your first year?
Yeah, and I've been careful, man. I've been careful. I strategically put posts together.
Those of you listening out there, have you been banned as well, Joe?
Yeah. Joe got a warning. Thanks for the
James,
great show,
Craig.
James and Joe. Saying it's a great show. I appreciate you on that. But Joe got that warning. And Craig, it is some crap, man. I mean, it was the algorithm, but it's out of context. And the whole problem with, to me, this goes along with the politics, because anything that is political, remember, if you look at Facebook, you
I was
can't, you
I was
gotta
about to say, Craig, because you're a Jets fan, maybe that was why you were banned. I don't know. You got to ban you just out of spite. I'm
actually
just kidding.
Craig's a Bengals fan.
That's what I was gonna say. Wait a minute. Why are you a Jets fan?
No, he was actually talking about, we were talking about the Amazon having issues. And he was saying at one point during the game that the broadcast went out and all they had was the halftime crew commentating during the disruption. And he said, "Oh, my bad, it was the Jets game."
Oh, the Jets. I'm sorry. He's not saying my Jets.
Yeah,
For some
right.
reason I read that and I thought he said my Jets.
No, it
Van.
was just the
Never
Jets
mind. Never
game.
mind, Craig. Sorry about that. Go ahead. Go ahead. So you were
No, but
talking.
just all this is being political with the way they're doing with Facebook, how they're banning things. And so again, my argument goes all the way back to a lot of other things that are being um discouraged to talk about. And to mention the Klan is something that has been discouraged to talk about. You don't want to talk about those things, and so anyway, we could keep it moving, but I want to let people know that I got a warning. So if you don't see my content on social media, on Facebook particularly, this is why. And if you see my stuff, share it as much as possible. Thank you.
In an unrelated comment, I don't know if I like the new Bengals uniform, the white thing. I
That
don't.
was
I don't
just
like
for
the
that
white.
game.
I don't like
That
the
was
white
just
thing.
for
I
that
don't know
game.
what.
That was their whiteout jersey for that game. That was just for
Yeah.
that game.
To summarize, I think that it'd be interesting to see what, if anything, the NFL does in regards to this. If there's any going to be an investigation, if some of the medical staff um, are held accountable for this. I'm going to be paying attention to this, and one of the things, even in high school, like my daughter has a friend, and she's a really good soccer player. She can't play
Mhm.
soccer anymore.
Wow.
It's kind of sad because she was a really good soccer player. She enjoyed soccer, and because of taking, headers, she's had concussions. Um, I can't even, at least a half dozen times. It's sad.
Mm. Wow.
For a young person,
Yeah.
and that could be a major thing.
Yeah.
So even in a sport like soccer, who has a reputation of being, not a hard hitting sport, certainly not hitting each other, but
Right.
you're hitting the ball with your head. So that's something to be aware of with your young people. Don't take it definitely take it seriously is what I'm saying. So
So what is the results of the CTE issue that they were in court with for the discrimination suits they had for CTE? What we haven't heard any more for that. Remember, Loretta
nope.
Lynch was on the committee for that. Remember?
That's what kind of happens, isn't it? Like something um, there's a major some newsworthy, something happens in the NFL, makes big news, and then it kind of goes away. Whatever happened to you a year ago? They were talking about black coaches. Are we hearing anything more about that?
Well, that actually still going through
It's still going
arbitration,
on, but
go through
we
courts
don't
now.
hear about it. People aren't talking about it. It's no
Yeah, the
longer
season started.
it's no longer an issue. It's no longer
Yeah.
the season started, so everyone is like, "Well, we're going to watch football." And
Okay. See, I found the
meanwhile,
result.
meanwhile, there's issues. The NFL's got issues.
See, this was settled actually October 20th. Well, this is an article, October 20th, 2021.
So
This is from
almost a
NPR.
year ago. Okay.
Yep. It says the NFL agreed to end race-based adjustments in dementia testing that critics said have made it difficult for Black retirees to qualify for awards in the $1 billion settlement of concussion claims, according to the proposed deal filed Wednesday in federal court.
I
So
I don't remember
that was
hearing anything about that.
nothing. So the revised
Do
testing
you?
plan. No, never heard anything. That's why I mentioned. That's why I brought it up. That was purposely question was on purpose. I remember this, and I knew we were going to talk about this, so I wanted to, bring it up. So it says the revised testing plan follows public outrage over the use of race norming. a practice that came to light only after two former NFL players filed a civil lawsuit over it in 2019. The adjustment, critics say, may have prevented hundreds of black players suffering from dementia to win awards that average $500,000 or more. So they came forward. They took care of this because the vast majority of leagues are 70% of active players, or more than 60% of living retirees are black. So the changes are expected to be significant and potentially costly for the NFL. So they didn't want to bring it up. It could have hindered their
It's going to hinder their bottom
season.
line.
So we'll see how this moves forward. And the reason why I brought that question up, and by the way, to date, the concussion fund has paid out $821 million for 5 types of brain injuries, including early and advanced dementia, Parkinson's disease, and Lou Gehrig's disease, also known as ALS. So the lawyers for the black players suspect that white men were qualifying for awards at 2 or 3 times the rate of black players. Since the payouts began in 2017, it's unclear whether the racial breakdown of payouts will ever be done or made public. So black NFL retiree Ken Jenkins and others have asked Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department to investigate. So the settlement is done. You probably won't hear anything else. So that's what brings me back to Tua. We saw Tua's reaction when they said it was a back injury. Whether it was a back injury or not, they allowed him to come back in and play. Although he won the game for him, they allowed him to come back in and play. Then not a week later or 2 weeks later, it was 4 days later, he came back and played and got a concussion again. Would that have happened to Tom Brady?
Nope.
Joe Burrow? Josh Allen? If that was the optics that you saw, that response to them walking or him laying on the floor with his fingers so stiff that they couldn't even uncrinkle his fingers because he was like in a trauma state, with this concussion. Those are questions of what the same thing goes back to why these players weren't getting these settlements before. They didn't believe they were hurt that bad, or they made excuses for it.
Yeah.
And it goes all the way back to, maybe these guys are stronger and they can endure more pain. I don't know what the question is, but I was really surprised that Tua played Thursday night. I was actually shocked. I was like in disbelief that he actually played that game. And he actually looked pretty good,
he's a good quarterback. And I mean,
his health is more important.
Definitely. I mean, you don't want to be what is it worth to be 50 years old and your knees are shot, you have to walk with a cane, and you have memory issues at 50 years old. This is a reality for a lot of former NFL players. What is it worth to you? Any amount of millions of dollars that you gained playing football, is that really worth it to you? I don't know. I don't think so. Not to me, it isn't. I'd rather have a healthy, happy life at 50 than subjecting myself to being hit by people. Joe says the NFL is bulletproof. They shouldn't be. They shouldn't be bulletproof. And I think that is a little bit true, though. Because we see things happen, you're like, damn, that's bad. That's a bad look for the league. And then they always go away. It always goes away. I remember the movie when the movie Concussion came out, that was a big deal for the NFL. The NFL didn't want that.
No, they didn't. They was embarrassed by it.
And Joe, the player has to agree to get on the field, but that's when the medical team should have stepped forward and said, almost any player, 99% of players are going to be like, yeah, I want to play. Even if it is a star player who already has a couple Super Bowl rings, whatever, they're going to want to play. So that's why you have medical staff to say, you know what, you're not good to go.
All right.
I'm sitting you down. I'm sitting you on the bench. We'll see you next week or the week afterwards. We don't want to see anything bad happen. And we saw something bad happen.
Yeah, that was horrible.
What the hell is the problem in this country when medical issues for people of color? I don't get it. It's super messed up. Yeah.
Okay. Wait. Let's.
No, go ahead.
I will post it here. I've been pushing this video out all week, and it answers that question. The question about the
This
medical
question?
problem. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just Google Dr. Joy DeGruy. I want to put her name in the comments. She has this theory, this study she does called post-traumatic stress from slavery. And in her studies, she's researched this problem right here within that because of the language that was used back going as far as back as the 1600s. That if I could find it, James Madison said that Black people can endure more pain.
She has a
Paraphrasing.
website that I posted in the comments, joydegrew.com.
She is
Go ahead.
like incredible. But I'm going to try to find this video again because I posted it on a couple of different sites because I didn't want to get banned talking about
Yeah.
slavery. So, and it
Go
really,
ahead. Go ahead and try to find that.
yeah, I am. It was very good. It's a YouTube video, and one is like an hour long. And I gave it to our text. If you look at our text for the bottom line text chat there, Darren, I put it in there as well. I've been telling people to watch this video from beginning to end.
Okay.
It's not even you like some people say, oh, it's an hour long. It's not one of those boring videos. Like, wow, this is really boring. She keeps you engaged so much, and she's giving so much information, historical information
I want to watch that.
about
Yeah.
how our forefathers viewed African Americans, all the way down to Henrietta Lynch with her cells. Then you had the guy who started doing these surgeries for vaginal diseases and things, and how he would do the experiments on Black women with no anesthesia, just complete,
Wow.
and he said that they can endure that kind of pain.
Yeah.
And this is the perception even till today. Tua was a prime example. You thought he
Yeah,
can
you're right.
withstand that pain. Now, people could say, well, the Browns let Baker Mayfield play. Yeah, they did. They let him play. But we all knew he was hurt. He wouldn't sit down. We could say the Tua wanted to sit down. But we looked at Tua's response from a hit, his head hitting the ground versus
Yeah, but
Baker Mayfield's
head
shoulder.
head
Totally
injuries
different. Totally different.
head injuries are a different thing. I know. And
Agreed.
that's a good point. That Baker played through the pain.
But there's no comparison to what Tua endured.
No, it's not.
None.
So this is just a little bit more information. Dr. Joy DeGruy, PTSS. If I go to a web page, this is what it says. Post-traumatic slave syndrome is a theory that explains the etiology. I learn something new every day.
That's the etiology.
Etiology of many of the adaptive survival behaviors in African American communities throughout the United States and diaspora. It's a condition that exists as a consequence of multi-generational oppression of Africans and their descendants resulting from centuries of chattel slavery, a form of slavery which is predicated on the belief that African Americans were inherently genetically inferior to whites. This was then followed by institutionalized racism, which continues to perpetuate injury. So, you hear all the time during the pandemic, there was a study done where by a Black medical doctor about the rate of death and the rate of care that even nurses and Black African American nurses and doctors received when they got COVID in the hospital.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. You've heard different theories about like adulting, especially African American girls. Earlier than you would view someone of another race, specifically white, usually.
That's all the same type
So
of
it
conversation.
is a thing that African Americans, they can endure more pain because we view them differently.
And that's
People
crazy.
view them differently.
If you watch if you go, I'm going to try to find the other video. She has a couple of videos, but I'm going to play one for you shortly. It's loading now. It's like a little short one, but she has this one that's an hour long. Like I was telling you, it was so deep. I mean, I stayed up all night. This was like Tuesday night, and I just found out about her this week. And I was just completely, just engaged in her conversation that I stayed up to like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
But this is the link to that video I watched the other night. I just put that in there for Dr. DeGroot, and I need to edit that, but you can't edit it now. But this is the one that I have loaded for us right here. Just going to show a little bit of this.
Post-traumatic slave syndrome is an explanatory theory that really looks at multi-generational trauma. One of the things that's difficult for people is their first response is, oh my God, that happened so long ago. We're talking about people being captured, shipped, sold, beaten, raped, experimented on. And then you have to ask the question, did the trauma continue? Yes, so 300 years of trauma, no help, freed. No help, more trauma. If it's a sustained trauma, then the impact of that is also sustained. When we look at multi-generational trauma, we're looking at people who are maybe victims of natural disasters and their families and their children and generations of folks who have experienced war. And we know that there are residual mental, emotional, traumatic impact. And what I did was I started to look at the African American experience, starting with slavery, as a real clear, long enduring trauma. I started to see that there were clear connections between that survival behavior and contemporary living in African American experience. I started to see common behaviors that I took for granted as, well, cultural. There's adaptive behaviors, survival behaviors. Well, what are they? Let's just say 2019, you have a black mother and a white mother. The sons go to school together. They find themselves at a meeting. The black mother leans over to the white mother and says, I just wanted to mention to you that I noticed that your son is really doing quite well. And the white mother's response is, oh, thank you. She begins to go on and on about he won the science fair, his uncle's an astronaut. She's just oozing. She realizes the black mother's son is actually excelling her son. And she says, well, wait a minute. Your son's the one that's really coming along. And the black mother responds, oh my God, he's a handful, but oh, he just works my nerves. Now, when I'm working with African American people, it doesn't matter what the audience is. It doesn't matter what class. If I were to ask, is she very proud while she's saying those denigrating things? And everybody laughs and goes, of course. There's a secret. Because everybody black knows that even though the black mother is going, oh my God, she's really proud. So now let's roll that scene back 300 years. And let's say this black mother is working in the fields and a white slave owner comes through and says, wow, that boy is really coming along. What is she gonna say? No, he's not. He's stupid. He's shiftless. He can't work because I don't want you to sell him. So I denigrate them to protect them. That is called appropriate adaptation when living in a hostile environment. The little white boy, say Timmy, he feels really comfortable and happy about what his mom just said about him. And Trey looks at his mom and wonders, why can't you be proud of me? Because he doesn't understand the secret yet. And by the time he learns the secret, he will have already been injured by it. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. PTSD is a disorder that occurs as a result of a single trauma. You don't even have to be there to actually get a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. You could just hear about something horrific happening to someone you love. So you have people who have experienced it firsthand, people who have witnessed it in their environment, right? People who are continuing to be oppressed. That exacerbates any possibility of healing. So it's not post-traumatic stress disorder, because then it becomes part of what we call your socialization process. So you begin to normalize a way of living and being, everything from what we eat to what we believe it means to be a friend. All of these things are colored by history. And if you don't understand it, you're going to fold in things that you've just assumed are normal. But post-traumatic stress disorder, exaggerated startle response, outbursts of anger, feeling of foreshortened future. There was a point where there were African American children in different urban settings that didn't expect to live to be adults because they saw so much death, that they started planning their funerals like at 13, 12, as young as 10. When you start looking at the simple biology, you start looking at the impact of stress on health. And while we look at general stress, we know finances, you have illnesses, all these different things. How about being black? How does factoring in being black in America impact your stress level and therefore your body's ability to operate its own immune system? Because we know it compromises the immune system. Once you understand it, then you can deal with it. Because you see, it's habitual. You socialize. It becomes part of your being. So one of the ways you begin to address that multi-generational trauma is to work with the people it directly impacts, to hear from them. And when you give the people the information, they can use it. I think the first order of business is beginning to have a conversation. And the other is to educate the larger society. You have to stop the assault. So this is not purely a clinical thing. This requires social justice and change. That's where part of the healing is. It's not in a clinical setting or in a pill. It's in fairness and justice and safety and equity. We got to work with some of those clinical things, some of those issues of panic and anxiety. And we also have to deal with the fact that you have a system that is set up to oppress you and to continue to injure you. Both those things have to be dealt with. And they cannot singularly by themselves affect a change. They have to be done collectively.
Wow, that's some deep stuff.
Yeah, man. I just found out about her this week, and I've been blown away. I've been watching videos of her with her. It's so deep because these are things that we talk about, we knew about, like at least in the Black community, but it was something that we couldn't really explain. She explains it really good because, like, one of the things that I'm sure you've heard this before. The police pulls you over,
Yes.
man runs from the cop, and people
Yes.
say, well, why didn't he run? Why
Yes.
didn't he just stay there? Why didn't he just comply? You hear these comments,
Survival.
right? Survival. And that goes all the way back to slave patrols. So you say, well, we aren't like that now. It's not. It's
still built into culture, though.
Yes,
I think what she said in the
exactly.
beginning, in the first half of the video, resounded with me. It kind of a light bulb went off with me because you hear about stories about, like, my dad, like, you had to sit down with your dad, right?
Yeah.
And your dad told you, if you ever get pulled over, you want to be 100% model behavior because
Right.
you don't want to badmouth it. You want to do, and with Black Lives Matter and all this stuff, you've heard about all these stories about, yeah, I had to have a conversation with my parent. My mom or dad sat me down and said,
Mhm.
You want to do better in all things
Mhm.
because if you want to be a professional, if you want to be if you don't want to be arrested, if you want to be if you want to succeed the way
Mhm.
that your white friend does, you're
Mhm.
gonna have to be hard on yourself. Parents are harder. So tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, in Black families, their parents are harder on their kids.
Yeah.
Just like she said, it's like, well, the mother's talking about her white child and say, oh, he's doing well at the science fair. The Black mother, who has an equally intelligent and successful child, doesn't give him those props
Yeah.
because she's preparing him for the world where that's more hostile
Yeah.
to people of color.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Am I right? Is that
Yeah.
do you feel that
That's a lot.
in
That's awesome.
generally speaking that people of color, Black people, African Americans, they're harder on their children
They are.
because they have to be, or they feel like they
Well,
have to be.
I mean, I was hard on my son. My dad was hard on me because they knew what the end result can be if I wasn't focused and paying attention. If I wasn't putting everything in perspective when I'm out there by myself, if I'm just casually just lollygagging through life, I can be put in a bad situation. I can't do if me and you were hanging out, this is an example of what, and I know it's for a fact my grandmother would have said this. If me and you were friends growing up, which we were friends, but we didn't hang out. If we were hanging out,
Right.
this is an example, and I know other Black families can relate to this.
Okay.
My grandmother would have said, or maybe even my mom, maybe, you guys, when you're out there, you behave yourself. Remember, you
Yep.
can't get away with the things that Darren can get away with.
That's true.
Exactly what they would have
That's
said.
true.
And other parents can relate to this, I know. But anyway, man, I don't want to, belabor social injustice. But
No,
we were talking
I
about-
think this is interesting though. I think this in the second half of the video also was kind of another light bulb. Was like, well, um, kids in certain neighborhoods and urban environments, they didn't expect to live. They didn't expect to live very long. That's in the United States of America. I mean, do you feel
My,
that's still the case
yeah, definitely
that
it's still the case.
certain populations they're like, well, I'm not going to live past 20 whatever.
Yeah,
They
yeah. I
don't
mean,
expect to live
my
into
son,
adulthood.
that was my son. My son didn't think
Really,
he would live past 18.
really,
He
wow,
watched at a young age. At a young age, I think before he was really like 8, he had seen what was it? 2 of his uncles pass. One passed from HIV. One passed from a violent encounter where he was murdered. And then he had several friends that he's known that had been through things. Then my son was in the Success Tech shooting in Cleveland. Um, and he told there was an anxiety that he had that I didn't know my son had anxiety until he was 23 years old. And I look back on our past and I see, wow, I was hard on him in so many ways, and he was struggling with anxiety. I didn't even notice it. I didn't even know he had it. So
wow,
anxiety is real. So the discussions with my son made me realize that, for one thing, parents can expect their children to be like them. I am an outgoing, sociable person that really will take more risks than not. Me, just that's just my personality and character. Where I can't expect my son to be exactly like me. I am a very confident person in everything I do, just about. And some people just aren't confident. It could be from various things. And it goes all the way back again to that slave syndrome, in my opinion, of confidence. You're not expected by society to do certain things.
hmm,
It's like inherently people think, for instance, white people are smarter. It's something that people just, because you hear it from back from long time ago. And so now it's like, wow, that's not true. We're all, if you, then that's why I post so many things on social media about successful Black people. I want that encouragement to be put out, that you can do anything you put your mind to. Although we hear those words, how many people really believe it in our heart? Because society shows us something different. It shows us that that's not the case. And the only time you see a person of color excel, where do you see that at? Sports, entertainment. That's not the only place that people of color can excel.
yeah,
So right now, if you look at the NFL,
that's important.
you finally reached the point of having Black quarterbacks in the NFL that are good. In the past, we had Black quarterbacks that weren't really that good, like in the 80s and
Mm.
the 90s. They were okay.
They were. I mean, there was a few that were really good. Randall Cunningham, Warren Moon,
Right, right.
but it was few.
There were few
Like
in
they were
between.
just like, uh, go ahead.
I'm just saying they were few and in between.
Yeah.
They just need to be put in an opportunity like you have put white quarterbacks in opportunity to succeed. Tua came from Alabama as a star. He went to Miami, and he struggled at Miami with Brian Flores for some reason. There was a coach quarterback miss. There was no chemistry there.
Yeah.
Now you look at Tua, he looks like a star quarterback. You look at what's his name, Lamar Jackson. You look at Mahomes. You look at all these quarterbacks that are out there now that are Black, and you're like, wow, every one of them is in the conversation of a good quarterback.
Hmm.
Every one of them. It's the opportunities that you give a person that give them opportunity to succeed. And going back to
Yeah.
the CTE issue, when I told people to watch this video, the video I posted is that she talks about how our forefathers gave their perception that Black people can endure pain.
Yes.
And when I looked at Tua's situation, and I saw her video before the Tua this game Thursday night. So when I saw it, it automatically brought me back to what I saw in the video. That for them to let that man play 4 days later, after finding out he had a concussion, it was like we need to win. He came back in that game and won. So
Yes.
it's like, so I'm not saying that black athletes can um, endure pain and go through it, but again, it goes back to that stress that you had to survive anyway. You had to fight through it,
Right.
and so he came back. He won the game. I still would have held him out because he had a concussion.
Yeah. It's one game, so it's not like it's the playoffs. It's not like it's the Super Bowl. It's a regular season game. It's the beginning of the regular season game. You play the long game. I mean, now, uh, are they losing him for the season? I don't know.
We don't
Losing
know.
him for half the season. Um, you know, so it's too bad. It's too bad.
We
But
don't know, man.
I think that going back to the what she said, the doctor said. One further thing about it, I realize as a white person that uh, that yeah, I could probably get away with more. And I never saw the statistics. I'm sure that the people of color, African Americans, I don't know what the rate of like discipline is for them in school. I'm sure
Yeah,
that would be an interesting statistics
yeah.
because I could get away with things in school.
Hmm.
And I tried to get away with things in school that I'm sure
Yeah,
that um, had I been black, I probably wouldn't been able to. I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe, maybe not. But then you grow up with a kind of a sense of, as an adult, you can see how that could form into a sense of entitlement. Like, well, um, I think so.
I think in our generation, newer generation, like my stepson, not as much. He was like, let me see, there are plenty bad white QBs too, Lafayette. The biggest problem in that area was opportunity, in my opinion. Black
Yeah,
men were not put
I
in
totally agree
situations.
with what you said,
Yeah,
Lamar, about
yeah,
opportunity. It's the
yeah, it's opportunity.
opportunities.
Yeah,
I mean, like how many? I mean, like when we were in the '80s, probably a black player would be shuffled and oh, you want to play wide receiver or uh, running back or something. You know, they would
yeah,
have been given though as a kid
yeah.
instead of being under center.
Let me give you two examples of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks.
Doug
So
Williams,
Doug Williams and what's the guy for Philly that won a Super Bowl? Can't think of his name right now. He won a
Philly
Philip.
won a Super Bowl with
What's his
in
name?
what was it 2019?
What was his name? He was the backup. He came in and come on, man. Who was the quarterback? Come on, you guys out there on Facebook. Tell me who was.
Joe's a sports guy.
I
Help
know
us
the
out,
guy. I can
Joe.
see his face. I can't think of his name right now. He played for Philly. Nick Foles. Thank
Nick
you. Thank
Foles.
you, Joe. Thank you. So you think about this. Nick Foles was a backup.
Yes.
He won a Super Bowl, did an incredible job.
Yes.
The next year they didn't want to, because they knew that their quarterback was coming back, who had the knee injury, the ACL injury. So they knew that he was going to be the starter. So you didn't want this competition, so you let Nick Foles go.
Right.
Where did Nick Foles go? He went to another team. I think it was Jacksonville. But you go to Doug Williams. He wins a Super Bowl, and he's out of the league after that. I don't think he played the following year. Now,
I'm gonna look that up, but I think you might be right.
Doug Williams had a historic career at Tampa Bay, of a new franchise, and he was excellent there. And then you go to the Washington Redskins, and you defeat the Denver Broncos in an incredible game. And it's like, how do you think about it though? Their starter, I forgot who the starter was for Washington at that time. It wasn't like he was a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Mark Rippon.
Mark Rippon wasn't a Hall of Fame
Mark
quarterback.
Rippon was let's see. Williams suffered from injuries the following season and was outplayed by Mark Rippon. This is according to Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I don't remember if that was true or not. I don't remember Mark Rippon being like all world ever.
I mean, he won a
Who
couple of
eventually
Super Bowls.
won. Mark Rippon?
Didn't he win a Super Bowl?
Oh, Doug Williams won the Super Bowl.
No, but
I
Washington
think
won
Mark
several. Washington won several Super
back with
Bowls
the
back then.
Hogs when they had
Yeah,
they called
right.
themselves the Hogs or
Yeah, they won a couple of stuff. I think Ripken
maybe
was the
yeah
quarterback.
okay.
But
Anyways, go
the
ahead.
point
Go
I'm
ahead.
making is why didn't Williams play for another team after that? Was his injuries that bad that he had to retire? Maybe so. It's possible.
He would play one final season in 1998 as Rippon's backup. I guess Rippon made the
And he
Pro
was
Bowl.
old.
Okay.
And he was old back then. Doug Williams
This
was
is at
old.
the end of of Doug Williams' career because, as you said, he started with the Buccaneers. He played with in the USFL. So, anyways,
So
that's
I brought
beside the
that up.
point.
I brought that up for a reason. Now we're gonna go back to another quarterback who was really had a mediocre career until he got with one team and then he won Super Bowls. Plunkett.
Tim
Plunkett
Plunkett.
was a mediocre. He was a mediocre
I don't know why I
quarterback.
laughed, but I guess
Yeah,
I don't know why.
because he was a dumpy, chubby little dude.
Yeah, I don't know. Why did I laugh? I don't know because I remember like Jim Plunkett. He's this kind of awkward, like curly hair guy. He
Yeah,
was an average quarterback.
he was average.
But
But
yeah,
then
yeah. I mean, he
he
was.
went to the Raiders and he looked great. He was
Yeah,
old.
I
When
mean,
he got to the Raiders, he was old.
sometimes quarterbacks when they get to be old, whatever they call them old, that's when they become great. Who was it with the Raiders later
They
on? He
give him
went to
the
the Super Bowl.
opportunity. They give him the opportunity, the right opportunity.
Randall Cunningham, he had a resurgence. He was mentioned.
But he
So
never went to the Super Bowl though. But Randall Cunningham came in good though.
Randall Cunningham was on that 15-1 Vikings team with
Right.
Randy Moss and Chris Carter,
But he was
lighten up the NFL. They should have gotten to a Super Bowl, but anyway,
yeah,
it wasn't his
agree.
fault. But
Yeah,
still,
yeah, I agree.
he had a resurgence at the end of
Yeah,
his career. So that
right.
that happens.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about opportunities in the right situation. But
We got
opportunity. It's all about opportunity. Who's
we
going to
got
give you
Bria on. Bria came on.
Hey, Bree,
Bria's
what's
here.
up?
Bria coming on.
I'm not sure. She's in the background there. I'm not sure
We
what
we don't mean to belabor the NFL stories, but
Hey, what's going on?
it's interesting. We were talking about PTSS, Bria. Have you heard that before?
PTSS, no.
Well, go look at the video I sent to our chat earlier in this week, and it talks about it.
I think that's very interesting. We should spend more time on it. To be
Oh,
honest,
post-traumatic.
I think it's.
Post-traumatic.
I think it's pretty. I think that's pretty interesting. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think we should talk about that maybe in depth. I don't know if there's any
Yeah.
guests out there we can bring in to talk more about this.
I would love to.
That's more of an expert. I actually think it's very interesting.
Yeah.
It kind of a lot of light bulbs went out for me.
Well, like I said, Dr. Joy is the one who termed that phrase, and so she would be the expert from her studies. But now other people are talking about that based on her studies. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, you guys. I don't know. I can't remember exactly the situation, Bria. You might have talked about this before, as far as like being a patient in a hospital, how you were treated differently from white mothers when you were expecting and delivering your children. Was that true, or am I dreaming that?
No, that happened. I think that it was a combination of
If you feel comfortable, you can talk more about that. But
Oh yeah. Well, I just my youngest, she'll be 2 in like 2 weeks actually right now. But anyway, yeah, we had this hospital birth planned from the beginning. We were always going to give birth here, and I saw my doctor the entire pregnancy. Then I got to when it was time to have the baby. Actually, like a week before, I went in for a fetal stress test. And during that visit is when I noticed something was a little off. And I don't know if it was, I don't think that it was racism. I think it was more so just like a lack of, I mean, they just don't have any Black patients. I think that's what it was, their lack of Black
wow,
patients. So they, didn't even bother to change the race on, they had me listed as a white woman. So
yeah.
that was very weird. There was no Black staff at all. The actual birth was terrible, and they knew it was terrible because after we had her, they kept bringing us gifts to our room. So, and then after we left the hospital, they contacted us like 5 or 6 times.
Huh.
I'm assuming because they didn't want us
Did
to
you
see.
think that they were withholding an epidural or anything like that, or?
No, when I got
Nothing
there,
like
she
that
was out. I mean, she wasn't out. She was almost out. But well, it was very crazy. I almost gave birth in the, like,
in the car or something?
driveway, and
Oh
then,
gosh. Okay.
we got into the elevator, and she was just, like, coming out, and then we got into the like, I gave birth in my clothes that I came from outside in, so that wasn't
Wow.
the issue, but the issue was that while I was actually there was no sensitive like, they were so insensitive. There were no, like I mean, I had to tell one of the nurses to get out while I was literally pushing my daughter out. She's trying to put an IV in my arm. So just imagine that. I mean, you can't really imagine it because you know,
Mm,
you're a man, but for any women out there, just imagine, like, pushing your child out, you already have no pain
yeah.
relief, pushing your child out, and then someone is trying to stab you with a needle. So I kinda just was like, "Would you get out? Like, get out," you know? She left. I actually accidentally squeezed her arm during, like, an intense contraction. I, like, squeezed her arm, and she was like,
Wow.
"You're hurting me," and I'm just like so there's just you know, notice this with Black women in hospitals,
Yeah.
we're more likely to die during birth. We are more likely to just have a
Yeah.
terrible experience because it seems as to doctors, I guess, that we just can take more pain than
Yeah.
anyone else, and that's just
So,
insane.
have you ever been like not Lamar, like somebody like refused to give you pain meds or something, or like the whole like
My
not anesthesia thing that withholding anesthesia story is kind of
No, not
uh
withholding
yeah,
anesthesia, but
that's pretty bad.
I had it where a doctor didn't take my situation as serious, where or didn't even consult me on my situation, where I was taking a banned medication for 3 months for high blood pressure.
Mm,
Uh-huh.
I found out by reading an article from CNN on my phone.
mm,
And when I found out, I went to my pharmacist. I called the doctor and they wanted me to come in for an appointment. And I said, can't you just change my meds? The manufacturer was banned. So I went to the
Wow.
pharmacy to let them know I need a refill, but this medication is banned. She said, yeah, I can't give you that. I said, well, what do I do? She said, your doctor needs to change. I said, well, I'm not going to his office just to have my medication changed when he can just do it over the phone. He's looking to get another hospital visit payment out of me. And so the pharmacist changed it to a different manufacturer. And then when she found out who my doctor was, she said, oh, he's a great doctor. I said, really? I said, well, what happened here? She said, well, I don't know. He should have called you when that medication was known to be banned. He should have called you to say, we need to change your meds. You didn't need an appointment for that. And I agreed. So I stopped going to him. And if you remember earlier this year, I said, I was looking for a black doctor. So now I
Yeah,
have a
yeah, I
black,
remember that.
yeah, I have a black primary care physician who found out that, he's diagnosed my blood pressure to find out I had a hormone issue that was causing my blood pressure issues. It was no, yes, all these years I've been on medications. And so, I have a black cardiologist. And so, it's sad that we have to go to that extent to look for doctors
Yeah.
that you need. But when you look at I had a woman, a cardiologist who took me off of a medication that is known that black men should have, and because of
Huh.
just genetics. And so the black cardiologist was like, well, why does he take you off of that? She should have known better to take you
Yeah.
off of that. I started to swell up and everything last year. So
Wow.
mm.
so you look at how, and this again goes all the way back to Dr. Joy's studies of how the perception of the pain and how what we can endure as a group of people.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, if you guys can watch her video, it's great.
That's
The video is
interesting
awesome.
stuff. Anyways,
Yeah,
I don't mean to belabor that. I just thought it would be something to ask
I
you guys if you were comfortable in answering it.
Yeah.
I had never heard of it. So I'm gonna look. I just saw the post. I mean the
I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been studies though. I took a sociology class, and have been studies about it where they surveyed doctors during their residency, and there were a lot of biases that came up. Whereas they think Black patients um, don't need as much pain relief as other patients. They noticed that doctors think that Muslims they won't they don't even offer pain medication sometimes because of their religious preferences. So there's a lot of
Huh.
There are a lot of biases, and there's been studies on it. So for people to deny it, for people to say it's not real, that's crazy because there's literally research done.
Mm-hmm.
Just Google
Yeah.
it, or just
Yeah.
Wow.
Google it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Well, we have done some of our topics here. There's some of the things that we wanted to get to. We have Liz Cheney, Russia, the California Artist Expression Act is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And again, the Celtics coach, um, that's interesting to me a little bit.
oh,
I just kind of
yeah.
question, like, why. Uh, I just kind of question the wisdom that the coach and the VP's wife,
And that's
like, what were they
allegedly, by
doing?
the
Like,
way.
that's
Allegedly, by the
it
way.
is allegedly,
Yeah.
it is allegedly. So it's
I
just
mean, let
kind of
me
like
let me
if you're
correct
in a
that.
high profile situation,
I didn't know that.
uh,
This just happened yesterday. Did we just
I,
find this out? Was this
no,
alleged?
this was earlier in the
this has
week.
been an issue for about a week. The
It came out.
Celtics coach was
Oh
allegedly in an
no.
affair with the vice presidents of the team,
Yeah.
his wife.
I mean,
Anyways,
we knew that he did this, but when did they come up with a person? Like, when did they start to
Earlier
identify
in the week.
this woman?
Well, see, there was another lady who was name was tossed around, and come to find out that she had nothing to do with this guy, but her name was thrown around in rumors. So when people's names started coming out, this name popped out,
Mm.
and I saw it in a video online. So that's why it became so severe. And I hear that it was text messages. I guess he had some vulgar language in the text messages, some really sexual
okay,
comments. But the thing about it is that shouldn't have impacted anything because she had an affair with him. So she was in agreement, whatever the context was in the text messages.
Do you think that's why the consequence was so much more like I
Well,
mean, he's suspended for the entire season.
yeah. Why didn't
but
they just
he
fire
was
him?
fired, wasn't he?
No,
Fired? He
he was
wasn't fired.
suspended for the year.
Oh,
So my question is this: why not just fire
yeah. I mean,
him? Just fire him. But
Because he is a good coach.
okay,
Probably you
this
know,
another
get
thing.
him to the
This another thing to look at. Hey, Bria brought this up last week. We were talking about celebrity news and everything, and how does it impact the conversation on the bottom line. And this is an evolving story. So you're looking at how someone committed a violation of the code of conduct that should have been either fired or you shouldn't even brought the story out. Stephen A. Smith brought that up. Like, why even bring the story to light if you're not going to fire him? Why even just say he's suspended, he violated the code of conduct? But you threw it out there that he had an affair, this is with a team member. So now there's these questions that's going to pop out. Then we find out who he's engaged to, Nia Long, and all these things. And that story continues to develop more and more. Now, how many people on jobs have had an affair with someone on their jobs? Is it worth being fired from your job for? Or is it that you have some type of discipline? Or do you just deal with it internally and doesn't have to be public notice? Is that a situation that should be public notice? A consensual affair?
I don't
Well, I
know.
think that it became publicly noticed because he got suspended for the whole season. I mean,
No, why was it public? Why did he get suspended though for an affair? They said it was against code of conduct, right?
Yeah.
Should that have been public that it was an affair, or should it just been code of conduct issue? You hear it all the time. A player is benched or he's reprimanded for code of conduct, and you never know what happened.
You do. Yeah. I think
Why would
probably
this
that
one-
would have
this
been the
was-
way to do it. I think the only reason to make it public, if you wanted to make it personal, if you wanted to say, like, this dude's bad, I don't want him in my organization. But then, as you said, why not just fire him?
Well, then because it was the vice president's wife. So you gotta, if it's the vice president's wife, now you got to build a case against the coach.
I think that it's public because of the situation. Like I feel like if it was just a staff worker and it wasn't the VP's wife, I mean, it's allegedly, so we don't really know.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if that wasn't the case, maybe it wouldn't be public. But we didn't know. We didn't even know there was a woman going to be identified at all. Honestly, I think the biggest part of it was that he cheated on Nia Long. Honestly,
Yeah.
so that was like the biggest thing. I mean,
Well,
I feel like
part
no
of it, I
one,
guess, part of the reason. Go ahead, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, you have to look at all the factors that go into this. There's a reason why it's public. It's a juicy
Yeah, you're
story.
right. I mean, I think that probably the reason why it was made public is because it involves a celebrity, Nia Long, and so that's a big reason why I think. If he had not been engaged to somebody who is known, makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
Yeah,
what
mean,
I
but
think.
it's a juicy
that
story, is what I mean. It's a juicy story. The public will eat it up. The media will eat it up. It's a good story. So not in a good way, but I'm saying, you know what I mean.
yeah, that could have been something they could have kept private. You know what I'm saying? Because we didn't have any names yet. If you're gonna say that, why not?
Mm.
If you're gonna say all that, why not bring out the name of the person in the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna bring it out like that, why not bring the name out?
Well, because I guess it's allegedly, right?
No, he's caught. It got proof. They had an investigation. He's
Oh,
caught.
so
But
it is
we
cheating.
say alleged. We say allegedly of who this person is allegedly, but we know he had an affair with a staff member.
They said that, yeah.
Yeah, we know that. So why not put the staff member's name out there?
You know what, too? It's probably like they don't really care much about his reputation, but they got to protect the VP's reputation as long as they can before this breaks. So I bet they already knew, everybody involved already knew what was coming down the pipeline.
Yeah,
You know, they just tried to push it off as long as possible. But
yeah.
I mean, I just don't understand what would make you do that, though. And the worst part about it, if we're just gonna, this is not the important part. This is just the side, less important piece of this is just the fact that a lot of questions are gonna come up. But they've been engaged for 15 years. You know what I mean? This is probably an ongoing thing. There have been reports that he's had other issues,
Yeah,
other
other issues.
situations like
Right.
this going on. So it's not. I mean, wasn't it recognized or brought to light back then? Like, why is it now that it's coming out?
Now, how many people have this VP's wife flirted with or had relationships with? We don't know that yet. You know, because you think about it, what would make her risk that? You know, she's
I can think of a few reasons, but I will keep them to myself, just to be, respectful to everyone.
You're saying that she was curious.
Yes, okay.
Hey, you don't have to keep it to yourself.
Oh gosh.
I haven't seen this woman. I don't know what she looks like, so I'm gonna go look at her though. I'm gonna go find a picture of her.
So
I hate to be that way. I hate to be that way, but it is a thing. Like, I don't want to be rude, but that's a
This
thing.
is Bria's topic.
yeah, in researching this and looking this up, I found another curious story. Did you hear about Rachel Nichols says that ESPN spied on her hotel room?
She's been mad because she left ESPN, right? She's the one got fired, or she's been having a beef with ESPN ever since.
So you think that's a bunch of bull, or?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't doubt it.
I mean, yeah,
everybody spies on everybody.
To me,
everybody spies on
your
everybody.
employer. If your employer was putting a camera in your hotel room, that's pretty bad.
Kathleen Nimmo. No, that's terrible. Yeah, sorry, I was still back on the other. Yeah. Now, what happened? She said they have it in her room. Did she have proof? Did she made an accusation with proof, or she just made an accusation?
I just stumbled onto the story and I was looking at it, so I don't know very much. Apparently, let's see here. There was a feed, apparently, like a video feed.
And so, what was the result of this?
I don't know. Sorry, I probably shouldn't even brought it up, but I just wondered if you guys heard of this.
That's all right.
You could help me out. That sounds like a juicy story. That's juice. There's a lot of juice there.
It's
So,
a,
do you want to look at Liz Cheney? Speaking of juicy, gossipy story, or
well, I did find a picture, so if like people were wondering what this lady looks like, I got a picture over here.
Oh, I do. I looked at it and I was just like, yep, yeah. She looks
Yeah.
exactly what I thought she looked like. No offense,
oh, help me out then.
but
Okay,
yeah, there's the picture of her and her husband right here.
okay.
That's her husband there. That picture right
and
there with her husband.
Not to be disrespectful, but I do think that has a lot to do with it. I don't know. She's probably slept with I mean, I can't speak to her. Okay, so let's not get sued. I, can't speak to her history with her sexual history with demographics of men. Like, I don't know. What I can say is this looks like a pretty curious situation to me. That's what it looks like. And historically, this is what we have seen throughout history are white women being curious about having relations with black men. It's a thing. Like, I don't know why, but it's a fetish. Like a fetish. Like, it really is. So, I think I can't speak to it. This is just purely just a thought that I have, but I think that has something to do with it.
Okay. I've heard that, but I don't know how true that is or not.
What?
Because you don't think. Hold on.
The NFL? Have you seen the
Hold
NBA?
No. Why you said that white women have a fetish with black men or have a curiosity? Couldn't it be that couldn't the black man have a curiosity about the white woman as well?
I think black men have a curiosity with black women because historically they have been barred from it.
White
they have
women.
been kept from white women, so it's kind of like a prize, kind of like a trophy.
I think it would probably go both ways, but I'm probably the last person to comment on that. I don't know.
Historically,
I agree.
We've seen white women talk about black men's junk. We've seen them talk about all kind of stuff. Yep, he get put on and leave your A for a white girl. Thank you, Joe. That is exactly what we are talking about. Like this is not. I know it's like one of those things that hush, we don't talk about it because it's a sensitive subject and people get all up in arms. But let's stop lying. Let's stop acting like it ain't there. Historically, since the slave plantations, white women have had a fetish with black men.
Oh, I agree. No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just do that devil's advocate side because,
black
you're right. You're right. Black men were killed. Like I said, Emmett Till was killed for whistling at a white woman.
He didn't even whistle at the white woman.
Or looked at her, or whatever it might have been. Allegedly. So, what I'm saying is that you're right. You say that you get this white woman and it's a prize. I agree. I'm not disagreeing.
I see both sides, and there are two sides of it. Why black men pursue women of a different race, and why white women have a fetish with black men, like they fetishize black men.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah. I just had to throw the other side out there that he could be just curious, but you made a very valid point, and it's true that because they've been sort of like banned for so long that when it happens, it's like in your face type mentality, So I know I get it. And you want to go into
all black men? I mean, we were in 2022. We are saying, relationships that are. I mean, some people just love who they love, and that's totally cool and everything. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying historically there is a correlation between.
Okay. So what was the next one, Darren? We had coming up, Liz Cheney.
It's up to you guys.
We could tie Liz Cheney into a couple of different things with the Republican Party. But go ahead and throw that out there about Liz Cheney. Yeah.
Let's listen to this. It's only a minute long. Here we go.
Congresswoman Liz Cheney is one of the most prominent Republicans in the country. Now she's about to be out of a job. She and Jonathan Karl sit down in the January 6th hearing room for an exclusive interview.
What does your defeat say about Trump's hold on the Republican Party?
Well, it says, I think that clearly his hold is very strong among some portions of the Republican Party. My state of Wyoming is not necessarily a representative sort of, sample of the party.
Arguably the most Republican, most pro-Trump state in the union.
Right, exactly. And I think it says a couple of things. I think, one, it says that people continue to believe the lie. They continue to believe what he's saying, which is very dangerous. I think it also tells you that large portions of our party, including the leadership of our party, is very sick.
You can watch more of Jonathan Karl's interview with Cheney this Sunday on This Week.
Well, that was
Okay, well,
last
that was
week,
it.
and I watched the whole video. But in that
Oh,
video,
you watched that interview?
Yeah, I watched it, and it came to a question.
The whole thing. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and she made a comment that she would do what it takes to stop Trump. And I was looking for this video from MSNBC
You watched
where
the
it was
whole
talked
thing.
about. So what will she do? She said she would do what it takes. They asked her about running, so she would run in the Republican Party to split that vote to keep Trump from winning. That's what she would do, and it makes me go ahead.
I'd have a hard time seeing that happen, and I'm not sure if the video started with this little video started with Liz Cheney is one of the most prominent Republicans in the country. Is that true though? Is that really true? Is
She was.
You
Like
mean
I
she
told you
would-
earlier,
you mean she would run the Democratic?
She's a senator of a small state that was just not. It was just not. That was just defeated. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that was the question, Bria. Would she run as a Democrat? And she said she'll do what
No.
it takes to stop Trump.
She's not going to run
Now,
as a Democrat.
my thing,
I was confused. Sorry, I'm like she's a Republican. Go on.
I mean, policy-wise, she has like nothing to do with the Democrats. But go ahead.
yeah, that was my issue. That was my issue is that she voted for all of Trump's policies. But getting back to now mentioning that, she would do what it takes to stop Trump. But check this out. I got this picture, man. This Twitter feed thing from Trump. Did you hear about how he's been bashing McConnell? So he was bashing McConnell a little bit, and then he made a comment called a racial comment about his wife, called her chow chow, and it was like, wow. So check out this the text here. Remove that banner. So if I can get this to come on up, she was like, is McConnell approving all these trillions of dollars worth of Democratic sponsored bills without even the slightest bit of negotiation? Because he hates Donald Trump and he knows I'm strongly opposed to them, or is he doing it because he believes in the fake and highly destructive Green New Deal and is willing to take the country down with him? In any event, either reason is unacceptable. He has a death wish. That's not good. Must immediately seek help and advice from his China-loving wife, Chow Chow. Coco Chow, was it? Something like that. Now, that's not cool. And
that's very
yes. But
wow.
And that's his tweet. That's his
the China virus. We've seen him. He's a racist. Like we already know this.
So, getting back to the death threat part, he said this is a death wish. You know what that does, right?
Yeah, it rouse up his base to go
rouse up his people. That should not be tolerated.
That's what the January 6th committee is about, because he went and said that he had nothing to do with it. He's not the reason why they came and stormed the Capitol. This is why. This is evidence that yes, you do. You are encouraging your base to act violently against someone you don't like.
Donald Trump has no soul. Elaine Chao served in his administration,
right,
as a transportation secretary. My image of her is her standing by his side as he was given a bunch of BS, whatever it was, giving some kind of press conference.
Yeah.
And she would try to do her job. She resigned. She was there for 4 years, all 4 years of his administration. She resigned.
I don't feel bad
after the second. She resigned on January 7th, and that is the reason why he calls her names like this. Now, I don't have any love loss for Mitch McConnell, but that sort of thing, that tweet is completely completely wrong.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised, not even a little bit. Nothing about this surprises me. Yeah. So.
No, and the thing about it, though,
going back to
there should be no death threats or racial slurs like this, but you're doing this to someone who now opposes you. But think about it, McConnell and his wife both supported everything Trump did. So like,
I know this
Yeah,
guy has no soul. This guy,
but
if you said anything bad about him, Bill, uh, his AG, how many people were on his side,
mhm.
and
yeah,
now he is thrown under the bus because they disagreed with him about January 6th.
Tell me
yeah.
about it. The thing is, though, is this, like I said, it's nothing new. The thing with the Liz Cheney thing, the situation though, with her, losing her seat and everything, I honestly feel though that she did this to herself.
Yeah.
She, I do like that she came out and was, vocal about how she now disagrees with Trump and how, she, she turned to do the right thing at the end, but it was too late.
Mhm.
And I think
Mhm.
that, she in the very beginning, like 90% of the time, she agreed with Trump. Like she voted with him. So, I mean, you switched around when it's too late, and I honestly don't feel bad for her. I commend her for her, bravery and her willingness to
Oh,
finally do
I don't
the
feel
right
sorry
by
for
things,
her. She
but I don't feel sorry for her.
I mean, if you're talking about is she going to run to try and throw a wrench into Trump's plan, she might try to do that. She'll get like 1% of the vote. And unfortunately, the Republican, at least their primary base, is pretty solidly pro-Trumpian. So even if Trump does not win the primary, if it's DeSantis or someone else, uh, it is still pretty heavy pro-Trump, pro-electorate that's going to vote in the primary. They're not going to vote for Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
Um,
She's
it's
still
not
very
going. It's not going
against the
to. It's
party.
not going to divide any Republican vote. I think it's all a lot to do about nothing. I think the news media is trying to make her into a figure to try and throw a wrench into Trump's plans. But really, can you find a Republican voter that's going to vote for Liz Cheney?
No,
Yeah.
she's
Find me one.
went against the
Yeah.
party. But that's the thing is about American politics. I think that, and I will always think this, American politics is what is causing this country to. I think this is the beginning of the end for America as we know it. The
Oh,
America that we were semi comfortable in. I think that this is the end of it because politics is getting so divisive that we can't even decide on things for the greater good. We're just picking a side because we don't want to be disloyal to our party.
Well,
yeah.
And I think that we are going to see this more and more, and it's not going to go away. I don't think it's going to stop. I thought with this new generation coming up, I mean, I may not be alive to see it, but I thought that would be the hope, the light at the end of the tunnel. But I don't see it. I don't see it anymore.
here's what I think. This is a big topic, and this is something um, you could talk a lot about. But I think we might have been in decline and not even realized it. I think we've been surpassed in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
educationally, quality of life, healthcare, um, and the politics has become so divisive that we've become dysfunctional as a country.
Yeah.
Um, So we talk about the decline of the United States. I think the decline's already there. It's already started. It's eroded from the inside out.
I mean, just think about it. Can you imagine uh, suing the president, suing the administration that's leading the country right now for relieving student loan debt, yet you've had millions of dollars forgiven on
Who is
loans?
suing the United who is suing the administration?
Let me look. I just saw a story
They're gonna
about
sue. They're gonna sue if they get the
Republicans
house back.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna sue.
They're gonna sue the Biden
How is that a
administration
thing? The,
for forgiving student
who?
loans.
I mean, who's gonna? Wait, the House of Representatives is gonna sue. So who is the plaintiff? Who
Republicans,
exactly is the plaintiff?
I don't know. 6 GOP
When you sue someone, you have to have a plaintiff.
the states are, so I
It's
guess.
gonna be. It's gonna show certain
The
states.
states.
Forgiveness plan. Yeah, and then
These are
they're saying they don't
These are federal student loans. I don't understand.
yeah, it's crazy.
Explain it to me like I'm 10.
But the thing is, that's not even the big
It's gonna be individuals from these states are gonna sue.
the big problem is the intention behind the lawsuits. That's the problem. The problem is the hypocrisy of it all. You want
This burns me so
forgive.
much.
You want to forgive. You want to be upset about forgiving student loans, but we just saw the long list of Republicans that have had millions of dollars of PPP loan forgiveness. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's not the same thing. I think one is, just absolute corruption, and the other is relieving students of debt that they probably got fished into.
You can you can
You know
you can
about
forgive loans, you can forgive taxes, you can have tax write-offs for companies till the cows come home, and no one will do anything about it. No one's going to sue. No one's going to get outraged about it. They should, but and some people do get outraged about it, but nothing happens. And you give some relief to people who are middle class and lower, young people, and people are up in arms. That just really burns me. That just really
Yeah.
burns me. You give millions and billions of dollars to big corporations. I'm thinking back to all the way back to 2008, and that was, by the way, I agreed with that, to GM and to Ford, to help those companies, and yet you cannot give some debt relief to individuals in this country. That really
Right.
burns me.
Right.
If you go back to
I'm
what Marjorie
speechless.
Taylor Greene said, Marjorie Taylor Greene made a comment. She said, I don't think it's fair that my state, the citizens, should have to pay for some kid who went
She's
to an
ignorant.
expensive school.
She's ignorant. Did she go to
Yeah,
college?
she went to school
I'm
for
serious about this
journalism.
question. Did she go to college?
She went to
I'm
school
not, can't
for
remember.
journalism. She went to school for
I
journalism.
don't mean to insult her.
She did. She went to school for journalism. But
Okay.
Well,
All right.
I think
people,
let me just make sure.
we know that people will use what they can to try to get a political advantage. Right now, Governor Newsom in California just did the same thing. Everyone's looking.
University of Georgia.
Everyone looking to maneuver. You know what I'm saying? To try to get an advantage. Same thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know, she says things, she does things for advantage. She's trying to get a base. She wants to get these
She
supporters.
has her Bachelor of Business Administration. Sorry. Candace Owens went to school for journalism and didn't finish. She just jumped right onto the
bandwagon.
Black people hate train.
Yeah. Let's look at what Governor Newsom, the bill he signed yesterday or this week.
Bradford.
Bradford.
He is prepared. Please read.
Assembly Bill 2799 by Assemblymember Jones Sawyer, an act relating to evidence.
Senator Bradford, the floor is yours.
AB 2799 will prevent the biased use of creative expressions such as art, music, lyrics, films, and novels in our justice system by requiring courts to thoroughly evaluate any pretrial hearing whether creative expression can be admitted as evidence in a trial. Despite protections in existing law, creative expression, namely rap lyrics, is still being admitted as evidence and used in criminal trials in a manner that incites biases, especially for people of color. Even in cases where creative expression isn't admitted as evidence, its discussion before a jury can poison the well, allowing bias against certain types of creative expression to influence the case unfairly. AB 2799, will require courts to consider creative expression inadmissible unless the prosecution can prove in a pretrial hearing that the creative expression is directly relevant to the case, contains incriminating information, and will not be used in a way that injects bias into the court proceedings. A defendant's right to a fair trial is crucial to the integrity and legitimacy of our legal system. This bill will ensure that any evidence used against a party is both credible and pertinent to the case at hand. I respectfully ask for I vote.
Senator Min.
I just wanted to speak out in support of this bill. It's based on the very important work of two former colleagues of mine at UC Irvine, people I'm proud to call friends, Professor Charis Kubrin at the School of Criminology, Professor Jack Lerner at the law school, and I urge your I vote.
Is there any further discussion or debate? Any further discussion or debate? Saying none, this is eligible for unanimous roll call. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, ayes 38, no 0. The measure.
So basically, it went ahead and the governor signed the bill this week. So it's basically saying that you can't use your lyrics against you unless there's proven fact that your lyrics is associated with a crime. Which is before they were taking, because a person talks about a certain thing that they're guilty of doing a certain thing, and a lot of it was dealt with racketeering and these RICO laws.
Like
These
the
RICO.
current one. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. What was that?
Honestly, like 21 Savage right now. Not 21 Savage. Young Thug. Sorry.
Yeah, Young Thug, Gunna got the same thing.
Mhm.
And they've been using that for the longest. So unless they show that you did something wrong, this is why that act came into play.
I'm on the fence with this one. I ain't gonna
That's
lie.
why I just said it could go both ways. But the thing about it, though, you have to prove that it was related. If it's just like any other case, you can't say, well, we think, or it looks like. You know what I'm saying?
Some of these lyrics, I'm not gonna lie. Some of these lyrics, these artists are detailing out what they did. Okay. For example, the late King Von. Okay, King Von was a rapper. I mean, very talented rapper. I actually used to listen to. I didn't even know who he was until George told me about him. But after I found out, I listened to all his music. He's pretty violent. He's part of the Chicago drill scene. A lot of their raps detail exactly what happened, where it happened, how it happened, and when it happened.
Yeah.
And in that case, if you're that's a confession.
Right, in that case. But other cases aren't the same. You're talking about a violent murder versus a RICO charge, racketeering or corruption. You can't that's hard to say.
Lyrics. I'm trying to think who has the. This is the bill that Jay-Z backed. I think Jay-Z was behind the. He went really hard for this bill. He was talking about it and stuff. But
because you can say that for just any industry.
When
it comes to the court of law, it's supposed to be proven without a shadow of a doubt, right?
Yeah, but I think that I don't think that people should be dragged into court based on rap lyrics. I don't think you should be able to build a case around rap.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't
Right,
think
exactly.
So your question about Jay-Z, this is in New York, are pressing New York lawmakers to pass legislation that would restrict when prosecutors can cite rap lyrics as evidence during criminal cases. So this would be, I would imagine he would be in support of this act in California.
Ice Cube, I think, too, was maybe he was behind this. I don't know. I think it's a good idea because I mean we know that the
Killer Mike was behind it. Too short. There was a lot of artists.
I mean, yeah, because if you think about it, the criminal justice system in America is always targeted Black and brown people. So for this to be allowed is like, yeah, I agree that they shouldn't be able to use it if you don't already have a case. You can't build a case around rap lyrics. I don't think that should be the case. Like that's the whole purpose of creative expression. People really rap and write and stuff to kind of let stuff off their chest, and it's a form of art. So you shouldn't be jailed for it. But if you did it, you should be in jail. If you did the crime, you should do the time.
Okay, well, just to be devil's advocate, as you said, if it refers to something specifically that happened, is that the exception then?
You think so? So, like, say if
to what you're saying is like,
or if someone got robbed, or if somebody was extorted or whatever, and there happens to be lyrics in a song that related to it, can you then go after that person? Is what you're saying?
If it refers to, just to be devil's advocate, if it refers to something specifically that happened, should that be exempted from this?
It's like I personally think that you shouldn't be able to use lyrics as evidence at all. I don't think that you should be able to use it as a form of confession or anything like that.
Okay.
But I feel like if you are gonna do that, it shouldn't. It's just the only reason why is because Black people are targeted when there are a ton of country songs that are confessing to crimes all the time. I mean, Carrie Underwood, I dug my key into the side of his, you know what I'm talking about? Pretty little sleep coat for
But that's not something specific. I'm
It
not
is.
aware that that's something
She
specific though.
destroyed her ex-boyfriend's car. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? For cheating on her. So can we take Carrie Underwood to court for, you know,
All
Investigate.
right. Well, that's a good point.
destruction of
Okay. All right.
property?
Well, I'm
Like,
saying is it's
we
been
gotta
like that.
target people, target everybody. Don't just target the black folks. Don't just target the hip hop rappers.
Well, it's been like that in like with drug use in music, you know, in the music industry.
Yeah.
And like the same thing with these rap artists is really a not even like the murder stuff is one thing, but we're talking a lot of times it's dealing with drugs, you know, racketeering, money laundering, all these things. You using rap music to do an investigation. Did you do a investigation into what was the artist Elliott Smith, Needle in the Hay, talking about drugs? You know, nobody realized it was about
Who's that?
drugs.
You just looked that up. Who's that?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Fleetwood and Mac, Gold Dust Woman. You know, they're
You
talking
a
about
rock
dust.
artist? Rock or
You heard of Fleetwood and Mac, classic rock.
But that's what I was gonna say too, like rock music, you got country music, you got alternative music, all of these other genres of music all talk about crimes that are crimes because they're creatively expressing it.
Right,
Like,
but that's what I'm saying.
why
But
are we targeting
see,
all these other that's what
because see, hip hop music is reaching 50 years in the industry. Okay. After 50 years, they're trying to do this. At least MC Light is trying to do this big summit with all these legendary artists. The thing about what I'm saying is that the hip hop music is at the pinnacle right now because it's in every industry, everything, every industry, commercials, theme songs for everything. It's all about movie soundtracks. Everything has hip hop music in it. The whole culture, the walk, the dress, the talk. Every sports show has a hip hop theme to it. Everything. So, what is the best thing to do is to continually put it under the spotlight as something negative. Like I said, you could take all these old songs, country, you could take rock, you could take pop that had a drug influence or something in it, or even confessing to a crime, but they were not investigated. But rap artists are investigated repeatedly. So, I mean, that's where I think the bill is good. But also on the other side of that, if it does expose a crime, it should be investigated. I mean, you know, it's like a catch-22. There's back and forth.
Yeah. No, I'm
Yep,
glad
I agree.
I'm glad that this is even a conversation. I'm really glad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting, you know. It brings up a lot of things that you're right. Yeah. Technically, yeah. Carrie Underwood has committed a crime.
Yeah.
We're talking about like what's that song about I drove your car off a bridge or by the I don't care, I don't care.
Oh yeah.
Talks about it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, like in every genre of music, there's some sort of like admitting to a crime. I think it just never came to, you know, let's use this in court until it came to black people. Until it came to hip hop rapping because it's like, you know, it's very hip hop. They talk about stuff, you know what I mean? I don't think I think it's always been a safe space until now.
Now check this one out. This is YouTube. You're in the group U2, right? You know the group U2, right, Bria?
Yeah,
U2.
Apple makes us listen to it. It's the first. I don't know if that was iPhone 6. They bought everybody had it pre-downloaded.
So the song "Bad" by U2. The intense and swelling "Bad" was often the centerpiece of U2's live sets throughout the 80s. The lyrics, grim and desperate in the verses, triumphant in the choruses, were impressionistic enough for listeners to read my personal struggle into them. By 1987, however, Bono was introducing it as a song about addiction. I wrote the words about a friend of mine. His name is Gareth Spalding. And on his 21st birthday, he and his friends decided to give themselves a present of enough heroin into his veins to kill him. He told an audience in Sweden that year and at a Chicago performance, he focused on the societal effects of the drug, introducing Bad as a song about a drug called heroin that's tearing our city into two. That's tearing the heart of the city of Dublin and tearing the heart of the city of Chicago. Now, getting back to that, we knew that was an issue. How many groups at that time was investigated for using heroin? Not saying U2 used heroin. They said a friend of theirs. But how many artists, and we know how bad heroin was and cocaine was back in the 70s and 80s. How many artists were investigated that were popular pop artists or rock artists for drug use. I didn't hear about it like that.
Well,
Or not only that, convicted.
This could also extend to books that are written.
Yeah.
Like memoir stuff.
Memoirs.
There should definitely be protection for this. I honestly agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with this.
Oh, don't do that. I'm sorry.
What do you think of Rihanna being the Super Bowl halftime choice?
Somebody made the funniest joke about this. They showed a picture of her. They showed a picture of her on the field next to her Fenty Beauty product.
Rihanna?
Oh,
Who
right.
did?
It was a meme that came out. Like, it was basically like, what is she gonna do at the Super Bowl? What songs? She hasn't
Sing?
released an album since 2016. You know
Well,
what I mean? I think
that's.
This is about money.
I feel
well, wait a minute. When's the last time that a lot of these artists that have been on the Super Bowl released anything?
They don't make music, right? That's their.
I mean, for God's sake, the Doors were. No, I'm sorry, not the Doors. The Who did a halftime show.
Rihanna's been teasing us with a new album for the longest, and
it's coming out. That's why she did this.
I hope that's the case, because if it's not the case, I'm gonna be salty. I'm gonna be upset, because I'm not trying to. I didn't listen to the Anti album like how many times? I don't even know. Her last album that she released, I don't want to hear that album on Super Bowl. I want to hear something new.
Well, check this out. Think about it from this perspective. So Rihanna
I don't think
works.
They're gonna have anything new on the Super. I think for the Super Bowl, they're gonna be tried and true. But I could be wrong.
She's gonna do a new song. She's gonna do all her old stuff. She's gonna do all her old stuff. She's gonna do all her old stuff, but she's gonna promote a new song. But think about this. Think about this. She works for Jay-Z, right? Right? She works for Jay-Z. Jay-Z is over the Super Bowl. Why would he bring one of the most successful artists under his, that he's working with to highlight a Super Bowl performance? So it could be the fact that this is the conversation I heard on the radio this week, that maybe she still, because she bashed the Super Bowl, said she would never work for the Super Bowl because of the Colin Kaepernick situation. But what if he's making her do it, or he puts her in a position to not turn it down?
A billionaire.
No. We're talking about music. We're talking about her love of music. She don't have to work again in her life, but we know music is her love, and she has a new project coming out.
But did she say that explicitly? Because I get a different feeling. I think
he said what?
I don't feel like music is her love anymore. I think that she's moved on to other things. I mean, I think that she's found a passion in other things. I honestly don't. The only reason I could think of her doing this is just because she has a new album coming out. That's the only, and I feel like she's been out of the game for so long that this is a way to get that attention to her album that she needs.
When's the last time that 50 Cent had a new album?
But she said she would never perform at the Super Bowl. She was offered and she turned it down. Like I said, you're right. She's doing it for the money because of a new project. But how does that look when you're so supportive of? Yeah, I'll support Kaepernick.
Oh, it's not the same NFL. It's a different. If Jay-Z wasn't involved, I don't think she would be part of it. I don't.
That's the point I'm making. Is it because
exactly.
he's there and he's
because he's there?
He's there. He's making her do it.
There's nothing wrong with that. I don't.
So no, what I'm saying is what I'm saying is that you are strong on your stance on something, and then it changes. You look sort of two-faced in that situation. Is what I'm saying. She's doing it now because of the opportunity to make more money because of her project. Then you have Jay-Z in the middle of there, and your stance change. No one says she has a right to change her mind, no doubt. But from the optics view, it looks like, wow, oh, before you didn't want to do anything. Now you're saying you do.
I'm excited to see what's gonna happen though.
I think it should be a good show. I mean, they've had all kinds of people. I mean, Jennifer Lopez and Santana. I mean, when's the last time U2 did a halftime show? It doesn't matter if they released anything new recently.
I like the old groups doing it.
But y'all, like the comparison between like J-Lo I don't think should be a comparison because everybody knows Jenny from the Block. You know what I'm saying? Like that was like I don't know any Rihanna.
Well, if you're gonna use the reason that they haven't released anything new lately, I don't think that's a real reason.
She's been busy with so much. That's why she hasn't released.
Rihanna doesn't have any songs that are like multi-generational. Like, she doesn't have any
Who?
songs that
Rihanna?
Yeah, what songs do you know? I don't know any Rihanna songs that my mom and dad would sing that I would also sing. I
Well,
don't know
they
any
That's
probably don't even know
probably
who
a good
Rihanna
thing.
is.
That's probably a good thing.
I mean, but you know what
we
I'm
want to
saying?
get.
Like,
Don't you want to appeal to younger people?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I just don't know. I love Rihanna. Like, I'm a Rihanna fan. Like, I really do love her, but it's just not the um I just don't know what song she's gonna perform that. I just don't I don't know. I don't know what the turnout is gonna be. I love Rihanna. I think she's a talented artist. Like, she's one of my favorite artists. I just don't know what she's gonna do with the Super Bowl.
I
Like,
mean,
what's exciting?
I
We
think
found
For a
love.
Super Bowl halftime show, you're gonna pull out all the old good ones. You're gonna pull out her greatest hits. It's a
We
Super Bowl
found love is
halftime
going to be
show.
a
It's
hit
not.
for.
It's not
One
like
of her
she's
hits.
going on planning a new tour, a
Well, these
nationwide
are
North
all
American
songs
tour.
that are okay. I mean,
We Found Love was a good song that's played.
they're good.
That's a multicultural song that's played everywhere.
I mean,
It is. It's a song that's
yes,
played in different
I
venues.
agree. I agree with that.
it's
We
not
Found
like
Love.
it is not like a Beyonce, you know, early 2000s best hits. Like, it's not like
No,
that though.
it's
Like,
not.
what are her best hits? Like, what are songs that are gonna be like I don't really know how to explain what I'm
Out of
saying.
her music, I think We Found Love
These are
is a
having
song
greatest
that you'll
hits.
hear. It's be a song that you'll hear throughout generations.
I just don't think I'm gonna I love
The
Rihanna.
rest of her music is great, but it's not going to be like say multi-generational. It's not. In my
I think it's
opinion.
I think it's gonna flatline, and I just don't think it's gonna be that good. In my honest opinion.
Well, okay, okay, wow. We'll
I
we'll
love
definitely
Rihanna. I
we'll
love
definitely
Rihanna. Don't see
okay. Well,
it.
February we'll revisit this.
Yep, I'll be there. I'm gonna look. I'm just gonna be watching. I just, you know.
Yeah.
I just want to see. I just want to see a good quality show.
This was
Yeah.
one of my favorite songs by her. I actually really like this song.
It's not a generational song.
It's just, I mean, it's.
Does
I
it
just
have to
think that
be?
when I think of Super Bowl performances, I
Does it
think
have to
of
be?
like greatest hits.
They
I
had
think
Coldplay.
I like Coldplay. Don't we like
Weekend. How did the Weekend even get a job?
The Weekend got a
That was
Super
a
Bowl
good.
halftime show.
Did you?
It was a
That
good
was
show, but you say
great.
if you're talking about generational songs,
People didn't even know the songs.
Okay, but here's the thing about The Weeknd. He's a different kind of artist. I know I'm making all these rules. All these new rules are coming up. But
Well, anybody remember his music?
yeah, that Super Bowl performance, everybody remembers that.
Not performance.
That
Will
Super Bowl.
anybody remember his music?
Yes. Yes. The Weeknd is, I mean,
I
in my
Can't Feel My
opinion,
Face is the only song I know by him that I know the title to.
Weeknd, in my opinion, The Weeknd is like next to like he's in a
good.
category of Prince. He's in a category of
No,
Michael
no.
Jackson. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
He's not in that category.
I
He's
think
not
he's
in that category.
Like
He's in your generation, so you put him in that category. He's not in that
no,
category.
I think that a lot of his songs
I'm gonna
are
have to veto that.
Like I look at
Rihanna's bigger than The Weeknd. I mean, come on.
I give myself.
Rihanna
I know the Weeknd's
People know who
music.
she is.
Check out.
You
I know the
love
Weeknd's
Rihanna.
music. I know his music when I hear it, but the only song I know by title is "I Can't Feel My Face."
Really?
That's the only song I know by title.
Yeah.
Because it's like they play it all the time.
I feel
You
that.
play it. You play it in that. You play that song.
Yeah,
in
why isn't
different
Chris Brown doing the Super Bowl? If anybody.
Right. He would be a good Super Bowl act.
Oh,
I
well,
think,
he's
but-
all,
Who? I'm
but
sorry, I missed that. Who?
But his negative, he has so much negativity in his life. That's why he's not going to be on the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's definitely on something right now. Allegedly.
Who?
Chris Brown. There's so
Oh,
much
Chris
negative,
Brown.
so much negative stuff that follows him. But early in his career, he would have been great. But as his career went on,
Okay,
it just-
Maroon 5.
I like Maroon 5. They've been on there
I
before.
like Maroon 5, but I'm
They've
just
been
saying, are they generational?
so.
Intergenerational.
I think so.
Intergenerational.
I
Maroon
think so.
5 has
Bruno Mars.
consistently.
Bruno Mars is definitely intergenerational.
Intergenerational. Okay. I mean, he's great.
Multi-
I like him.
multi-
I'm just saying that
Bruno
multi-generational.
Mars and The Weeknd are in the same category.
No, they're not.
Black Eyed Peas.
No, they're not. You know why people like
Like I
people like
to go down. I mean, you gotta look at these older groups that have this music that just kind of blew up and were like, these are greatest songs. Music today isn't like how it was back then.
multi-generational because of the fact that
Multi-generational.
Bruno
If
Mars.
that's the the qualification.
Bruno Mars plays with a band,
There are many
and
qualifications.
Bruno Mars can go old school, new school. Bruno Mars is like he can attract all age groups with his music.
Honestly, I thought that was one of the better halftime shows in ever.
Yeah,
Is Bruno
definitely.
Mars? He
I
was.
agree. Nobody will beat the which was it, the Prince one and the Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's was awesome.
That was old school, yeah.
That was awesome though. That was like phenomenal. So anyway, y'all,
We
what's y'all
we'll,
bottom
we'll
line
have
for
to have
the
a
day?
we'll have to table that discussion about halftime shows.
And then Bria start her celebrity gossip news show. We'll go ahead and start doing these type of conversations because she got to get prepared for that. That's going to be the next show, y'all. It's going to be after we do the sports show. Bria's going to start a celebrity news weekday podcast for
I'm
like
gonna
about
have to do something
Okay, I'm
specific
so
then
glad
too.
for that.
Gosh, you guys are stepping up.
Expand our
yeah.
base a little bit.
We got to expand a little bit. So yeah, Bria's going to push that out sometime soon. So okay, what's your bottom line, Bri?
Bottom line, yo, well, last night was a really long night. My daughter, she hit her head yesterday. I wasn't gonna say anything about it, but now I'm bringing it up now. I just pray for her. She got a little speed knot on her head, and she got to have her head glued shut yesterday. It was a lot, but she's doing okay today, and I guess that's my bottom line. Please pray for Fallon. She's hope she
Definitely.
doesn't have any deep scars. Hope she's not. I don't know. The girl looks scared of her bed now. Like she's like, oh my god,
Aw.
memories. Yeah.
Aw.
Gotta
Hugs,
be-
hugs.
Sorry.
Yeah. What's your bottom line, Darren?
Well, I'm gonna pray thoughts and prayers for people in Florida and donate. Look to help those people. This is a chance for people to come together. Pandemics, storms, these affect people, all kinds of people. Black, white, Hispanic, doesn't matter. Demographics, rich, poor. So it doesn't really it's indiscriminate. And this is a chance for America to show its strength and its perseverance to look beyond petty disagreements.
Yeah.
So
Agree.
that's my bottom line.
Yeah, my bottom line is on the same vein of praying for the hurricane victims. Wow, excuse me, had a little belch there. But the thing that's more important in this is that natural disasters shouldn't be political.
Yep.
And leading up to this hurricane, it became political because of the war between the Republican and Democratic Party with how a government should help and how a government shouldn't help and all those things. And at the bottom line, those politicians will not be as threatened by natural disasters as the citizens of these states are threatened. They can't get out. They can't get away. They lose everything. It's just so sad. And they're caught in the middle of this political firestorm when all they want is help. It doesn't matter what policies you believe in or not, but when it comes down to helping those that are in need, that shouldn't be a political conversation. Whether it's a storm or whether somebody is going through mental health or whether somebody's going through the immigration status, whether it's a sexual identity, whatever these social issues are, it shouldn't be a political debate at all. These are people that we're dealing with, and we should be caring about people surviving and living. So my heart goes out to Florida. You're definitely being my prayers. I was glad to see that my employer put up a nice donation to help hurricane victims. And I wish we had thought about this earlier, that we could have posted some organizations that you can contribute to help the hurricane victims. I just totally forgot about that, but we'll try to put something on our site later on.
Red
on our
Cross,
Facebook page.
as always.
Yeah, we want to put some direct links that people can just click on and go right to it. So, okay. And with that, we can go ahead and close out. But I want to thank everybody for watching The Bottom Line. And we catch you all next week.